Pirate's Most Powerful Villain, Chapter 721-740. Chapter 0721 The Lord of Six-Star Elements. Ka. Cracks to appear on the surface of Mebus' absolute defense magic, the Fairy Ball. Needless to say, the Lord of Elements, the 5-star elemental lord, who uses the power of the element world to invade the material world and break the Fairy Ball, can naturally perform like this. And the Sea Dragon, in the Sea Dragon God mode, is equivalent to 6 stars, the power is multiplied, and the claws are enough to tear the sky. At this moment, it is used to bombard the Fairy Ball, and its performance is equally eye-catching. It is extremely difficult for the two of them to break the magic with their single strength. Even if they can, it will take a long time, but now the two of them are working together and attacking one point at the same time to break the face, and the ball of the fairy suddenly appears cracked. Ka. This crack 09 was centered on one point and spread rapidly, covering the entire surface of the sphere in a short time. But this is the case, the fairy ball is still not broken, but is constantly being repaired. How could be like this? Mebus was stunned, a little incomprehensible. This is a super defensive magic capable of defending against all powers below God, and it was almost shattered. According to the data she has, this is almost impossible. You must know that she has used the heart of the fairy, and the defense of the fairy ball is many times stronger than normal. He. Hailong laughed lowly and waved a claw again, Dragon's Claw. The golden dragon claws were shot, and the golden dragon phantom appeared immediately, and a huge dragon claw slammed into the inner wall of the fairy ball. At the same time, the Lord of Elements also started again. With his palms facing each other, water, fire, and wind gathered in his palms, evolving the magic power of chaos. The next moment, this chaotic magic cluster ball flew out suddenly, and also bombarded a point on the inner wall. Boom! The entire space of the fairy ball was shaken by the huge magic power. The cracks on the surface of the ball, which had just been repaired, were spread again, and the density was even higher than before. Click! When the sound of the last crack sounded, the huge fairy ball seemed to have endured the limit of strength, and finally shattered into countless crystal blocks, which turned into crystal dust scattered in the sky. Actually, it really broke. Mebus grew up and had a sluggish expression on his face. Even her strongest strength could not trap the two of them, so for Lan Ran and Emperor Qin, it was probably even less worth mentioning. Seeing this, the Lord of Elements raised his right hand and grabbed the sky violently, pumping the power of the sky. This grasp, the entire sky suddenly shrank and collapsed, as if a force had been forcibly stripped away. This power is extremely distant and mysterious, twisting in the air and turning into a great sword. The great sword is transparent, like glass, exuding a mysterious atmosphere. The Sword of the Sky. The Lord of Elements stretched out a finger and pointed at Mebus. The next moment, the Sword of the Sky hanging in the sky shot at Mebus at a rapid rate. This is... Mebus's little face tightened. He extracted the magic power of the entire sky and condensed a Sword of the Sky. The affinity of elemental life to magic is far beyond that of human beings, and he can actually do such a thing. Before dealing with Jirth, the elemental master drew the magic power of a country and condensed the dragon of the earth. This time, it was even more ruthless. It directly took the time to use the magic power of the sky within 100 miles, and turned it into a sword of the sky between the sky, and it was necessary to kill the enemy with one sword. Thinking of this, Mebus didn't dare to be careless, and immediately raised his right fist and shouted, "The glory of the fairy!" Whoosh! A dazzling golden light shone, and a golden ring appeared above Mebus' head. As soon as the ring appeared, he immediately walked towards the Sword of the Sky, like a lasso, allowing the great sword to penetrate into the ring. At the same time, the golden ring tightened, blocking the action of the great sword. The two forces began to fight. I have to say that the heart of the goblin is very strong, even if it faces the Sword of the Sky. The great sword that contains all the magic power in a radius of 100 miles can hold it to a stalemate. Oh, Kalong raised his eyebrows and said in surprise, "It's surprising that you can even block and stalemate this move. Mebus, you are really excellent, but we are 2 people here. You lose." "Isho," the sea dragon roared. In an instant, the situation in the sky changed, and the clouds were dense. "Call the wind and call the rain." The hurricane hit. The violent hurricane immediately locked Mebus. In the dark sky, there was a storm, and the hundreds of millions of tons of water were densely covered in the clouds, and there were bursts of thunder and dragon roars. The next moment, the voice and shadow of a rain dragon stuck its head out. Crap! Mebus was shocked, and when he wanted to do something, it was too late. The dragon of rain was only 10 meters long, fell from the sky, and came to her at once. Mebus' eye slapped a palm and turned into a magic shield, trying to resist. However, when the rain dragon hit the magic shield, an extremely heavy pressure was passed over. So heavy. Mebus was shocked. This is a rain that turns into a dragon. It is a mountain as thick as gold. At this moment, she suddenly had a clear understanding. It turned out that just the amount of rain can have such a heavy pressure. The rainfall of a storm was all gathered together and compressed into the form of a dragon. Its weight and destructive power were so terrifying. Puff! The magic shield shattered, and the dragon of rain 773 immediately engulfed Mebus, knocking her down from the sky and down to the ground. Boom! The earth shook, and the rain dragon made a deep pit, which turned into a lake. Above the lake was turbulent. "It's over." The Lord of Elements shook his head and snapped his fingers. Immediately, the sword of the sky dissipated, and with the disappearance of the great sword, the light of the goblin also burst. 1-on-1, it's not easy to beat Mebus in the state of the goblin's heart. One step out, the Lord of Elements came to the lake. As soon as his thoughts moved, the lake's surface rolled up, and Mebus' body was pushed up from the bottom of the lake. Being directly bombarded by the rain dragon, Mebus fell into a state of coma. Of course, the common man was long dead, but the leprechaun's heart protected her. "Absorb it." The Lord of Elements stretched out his hand and pressed Mebus on Mebus' chest, and the mysterious force scanned the opponent and began to ingest the source of the world in the opponent's body, as well as the heart of the goblin. I saw a painful expression on Mebus' small face. A peculiar magic power was stripped from the opponent and merged into the Lord of Elements. Boom! A big explosion occurred in the body of the Lord of Elements, and an absolutely powerful force was pushing him to evolve towards a higher realm. At the same time, in his mind, the information of the phantom body changed. 21st change, Lord of the Elements Atmont. Star rating. Chapter 0722 the second 6-star Phantom. After transcribing the magic of the fairy's heart and absorbing this mysterious rune, the star restriction of the Lord of Elements finally loosened and began to evolve towards 6 stars. He is only a line away from 6 stars. Now, he has absorbed a huge mysterious power, and the essence of his life has begun to transition. If it is said that the previous master of the elements is the element life, then at this moment, it is born from the elements and evolves to a higher level. In the world's parlance, it should be God. A breath of the abyss began to spread in all directions. The magic power of the Lord of Elements, like tentacles, spreads at an unimaginable speed, and in the blink of an eye, it has already touched the place where the dragons are fighting. This is the great wizard of the abyss. Some of the giant dragons had a keen sense of perception, and their expressions changed drastically. It's not an ordinary abyss, it's heading towards the realm of God. Impossible. It hasn't appeared in many years. Gods are just legends. They are laws, part of the world's operation. How can humans achieve it? Even our giant dragons can't do it. Countless giant dragons are horrified. Is this about to appear a god-level powerhouse? Under the panic and horror, this magical breath is still extending farther. For a few moments, the entire kingdom of fury had been filled, and then within dozens of seconds, the continent of Ishgar was included. On the continent, millions of wizards can perceive the changes in the world. It seems that a certain law of this world is being modified and added, and even the magic particles have become extremely active during this time, like boiling lake water. But this doesn't end there. The magic of the Lord of Elements is still spreading like crazy. If someone can observe the fairy tale planet from outside the sky, they will be shocked to discover a magic power, in the state of affairs that envelops the whole planet, in every aspect of the world. At the same time, in the mind of the Lord of Elements, his own information changed. 21st change, Lord of the Elements Atmont. Star rating. Ability 1, the power of the 4 elements. Ability 2, elemental world. Ability 3, the heart of all laws. Ability 4, the law of the self. Ability 5, the domain of God. This is the realm of God. The Lord of Elements closed his eyes and felt the fusion of heaven and earth. He seems to have become a part of heaven and earth. Even on the other side of the planet, a certain magician is practicing a certain elemental magic, and he can easily perceive it. If he wants to, he can even use the other party to deliver his own power. It really is the realm of God. No wonder Angsalam, you can curse Jerf. He murmured in surprise. I'm afraid, Angsalam didn't care about Jerf at all, he just set such a law, Jerf touched this law, so he was cursed by the law. This is like, someone planted a mine, and Jeff just stepped on it. This is the truth of, the curse of Angsalam, the law of the self, established by Angsalam. It's too strong. In the fairy tale world, the realm of the gods is omnipotent. In a single thought, I can end this era, whether it is human, giant dragon, abyss, all under my thought, everything will be destroyed. Quote. Vivi, the Lord of Elements, stretched out his hand, and immediately, the heaven and the earth seemed to be called, and the magic particles gathered in his palm like cheerful elves. My will, the will of the planet, is the law. I am the maker of the law. Angsalam's ego law, whoever violates Gingy's life, will be cursed. Then, the self-law of the master of the elements, that is, the magician who fuses the 4 elements, will be punished by God. This is ability 4, the law of self, which is to make rules that belong to me. As for ability 1 inch power of 4 elements, and ability 2 inches elemental world, nothing has changed. Ability 3, heart of all dharmas, is more interesting. It was born out of the heart of the goblin. In short, the master of the elements can see through the essence of all magic. Maybe the opponent spends 100,000 mana for a magic, and the master of the elements can crack it with only 1 point of magic power. At the same time, the heart of all magic communicates the world. Has the magic of the whole world, endless. And the last ability 5 is the most powerful. The realm of the gods, jumping out of the concept of time and space, sitting high in the clouds and watching the changes of the times. Even if the world is destroyed and reconstructed, it cannot invade the realm of gods. The Lord of Elements absorbed and digested his own changes, and finally said with emotion, Fairy tale world, I don't know how many years of history, dozens or hundreds of years or an era, even if there is an abyss, it will not escape the fate of death in the end, but God will not. God will shine with the sun and the moon, and live with the heavens and the earth. It can be said that as long as the Lord of Elements stays in fairy tale honestly, he can sit back and watch the situation change, no matter how hundreds of years, thousands of years, tens of thousands of years, hundreds of thousands of years, or even millions or tens of millions of years have passed. Years, it exists forever and will not die. He has become part of the laws of this world, and unless the world collapses and the laws dissipate, his time will start to move again, and there will be restrictions on his lifespan. So, what about the other gods? The Master of Elements raised his eyebrows. I didn't perceive the existence of the rest of the gods. Did they go to the universe? Go to other planets? In this direction, he shook his head again. Forget it, it doesn't matter. Anyway, the world will be swallowed up by the illusion world, and then, no gods will be useless. At the same time, the magic power that enveloped the world began to fade, and it began to become a part of the world. In the land of dragons, Qin Yang, standing in the sky, slowly opened his eyes. Success, second 6 star. He vivi isho, closed his eyes again. The last one left, I will reach 7 stars. The King of Nights. The world of death, the world of corpses, and the spirit court. Above it, there is a palace suspended in the sky, with stone pillars standing at the top. There was a thick fog between the stone pillars, making it impossible to see everything clearly, only a glimpse of a figure sitting cross-legged on the stone pillar inscribed with the word, 5. Fifth change, Night King Arthur. Star rating. A little bit more. Muttering in a low voice, the King of Nights opened his eyes. I've already reached a 5-star level, and I'm still close to it. Aizen's phantom body can reach a 6-star level, and it's the Benyu that I rely on. I just sit and absorb the spirit. The strength has reached the limit. Do you want to get another piece of collapsing jade? Where to get it? Parallel world. Go back in time. In theory, it is possible, but even if you get the collapsed jade, it is not necessarily successful. If I can, I really want to go to the world of heroes. I must be able to break the wall of servants there. Maybe even the phantom of Jin shining. Unfortunately, Qinyang was unable to find the heroic spirit world. Suddenly, the King of Nights' eyes flashed, and he secretly said in his heart, the Benyu researched by Aizen is a fusion of several powers, the soul of the god of death, and the empty soul. I don't need to get the Benyu, I can just follow the example. Thinking of this, the King of Nights took one step forward, and the man had disappeared above the stone pillar. The dozen or so thrones that symbolize the highest power in the world are now empty. Chapter 0723-Phantom is coming. Fairy Tale World. Qinyang opened his eyes again, his eyes flashed, and he whispered to himself. As for the King of Nights, it's still a little short, but it won't be long. Thinking like this, he took prenatal education and took a step forward. In one step, suddenly, a huge coercion enveloped this area. All non-dream dragons and wizards all felt a stagnation in their breathing, as if their brains began to lack oxygen, and their consciousness suddenly blurred. Hey, that guy is about to shoot. What a terrifying aura. What kind of terrifying existence will the president who leads the dream be? Countless giant dragons were stunned in their hearts. The war lasted for nearly an hour, more than 1,000 dragons died and more were injured. Qinyang glanced over and saw everything. Since Jeff is dead, Meba's fairy heart has been obtained, and the origin of the world is more than enough, then it's time to end. You, come back. The goal has been achieved, the Lord of Elements has reached a 6-star level, and the source of the world has been collected, leaving only the last giant dragon army. Hearing these words, the dozen or so phantom bodies scattered out suddenly stopped their movements and returned to Qinyang's side. What do you want to do? A giant dragon with peeling scales said with a little fear. At this point, they have experienced the strength of the Master and the Great Master, and they have also seen the terror of Aizen. Emperor Qin, who is above other people, has an undisguised fear. I said, it's time to end it all. Qinyang's expression was calm, neither happy nor sad. I've been waiting for the second of the 3 major goals, and you are the last. There are 1,101 giant dragons who died, and about 10,000 giant dragons with fighting power. Numbers. Better than I expected, fewer deaths, not bad. Quote. Speaking of this, Hivivi Isho said, now, give you the opportunity to surrender, join the Dragon Legion and become a full member. What are you doing? I'm in. Suddenly, crawling on the ground, surrounded by endless skeleton soldiers, a rock dragon said weakly, I join you. Become a member of the dragon army. Very well, who else? Qinyang glanced over. Immediately, hundreds of giant dragons stepped forward and expressed their surrender. Most of these giant dragons were severely traumatized and could no longer fight. If it was just like that, it would be fine. In such a weak situation, I was afraid that other giant dragons would attack them. Therefore, it is better to surrender. The number of surrenders is 2,400. Including the more than 1,000 dead, the total is about 3,500. Aizen nodded and said, 3,500 dragons are enough, the rest can be killed. Killable. Qinyang grinned. Isho, the last chance is also given to you. Since you have not surrendered, then die. This era should end. Between the words, he stretched his palms and whispered in his mouth, illusory world is coming. Call. The cold wind was blowing, and a ray of flame was born above the sky. That ray of flame seemed to burn the sky as if it were white paper, and where the embers burned, the scene of the other world was revealed. That's it. On the contestants' side, many people looked up, another world. The flame above the sky, burning the wall of space, a scene that once appeared in the world of pirates, now appears again. In just a short moment, half of the sky has already reflected the vision of the fantasy world. Compared with the past, the current illusion world is a little more angry. Some creatures appeared, the elk ran across the mountains, leaping dozens of meters high, the birds swept the sea, the claws patted the fish and scattered the fish, the sky was full of days, and 2 stars shone around. That is the world of pirates, the world of death. Now, the 3rd star is being born. I am Emperor Qin, the lord of the illusory realm. Qin Yang's voice spread all over the world, I will take charge of this realm and coexist with this realm. I am waiting for a dream, like a dream, everywhere, everywhere. Phantom is coming. Boom boom boom. The sky was shattered, and the sky of the whole world was burnt out and replaced by the scene of the illusion. Anyone who walks out of the house can look up and see the strange scenes reflected in the sky. It was a peaceful, very different world full of dynamism. Huh. Suddenly, Qin Yang snorted, I feel the curse of the god Anxalam. This law is still reflected in this world. The superfluous rules disappear. As soon as his mind moved, the illusion world suppressed it. A trace of law between heaven and earth was crushed and disappeared completely. This is Qin Yang's most powerful force, using the power of one world to invade another world. Unless this world and the existence of the same level as him, it is all a man's arm. The wheels of history run over and those who can't keep up with the times will be eliminated. Qin Yang looked at the remaining giant dragons and said lightly, I'll be the scavenger, cleaning up the excess rubbish. Boom. As soon as the voice fell, the body of a giant dragon exploded directly. No broken limbs, no blood donations, this giant dragon, like a speck of dust, was swept into the garbage heap in front of the illusion world, and was discarded in history. And this strange scene immediately shocked the rest of the dragons. Even the fire dragon king and the others felt horrified. A giant dragon is not immortal, it is just born strong and can be killed by anyone. I wait. I surrender. We surrender. A slightly young dragon roared and fled frantically. However, the sky in the illusion world projected a light, hit it at the speed of light, and annihilated it directly, leaving no soul left. Everything in it is turned into nutrients and absorbed by the illusion world. It's late. Qin Yang was unmoved. If you say surrender, surrender, is there such a good thing in the world? From the moment the illusion world came, you group of recalcitrant dragons, the end was doomed. Crush them. As soon as the voice fell, above the sky in the illusion world, that round of the sun radiated brilliance. If someone could look directly at the big sun at this time, they could see that the center of the sun reflected the figure of Emperor Qin. Reflect the sky. The phantom god, representing the will of the phantom world, is the phantom god itself, and it is the proof that the phantom god rules and dominates the phantom world. If one day, the great sun dims, or dies, that is when the phantom gods die. Kill. One word fell, and in an instant, the rays of light cast by the great sun, like rain, illuminated the dragons. In an instant, thousands of giant dragons were wiped out, and not even a breath was left. The group of giant dragons who surrendered early, after seeing this scene, looked at each other, and they all felt a great terror. In one thought, 10,000 dragons were all killed without any resistance. It's terrifying. This is the fantasy president. What is this? God. No. It's above God. Chapter 0724-Dragonflight and the Council of Dreams. Is to write a paragraph first. For example, after first obtaining the Saiyan blood, we'll go to another world, and then come back to write. This can prevent the combat power from exploding all at once. The Dragon Ball world was actually found from the very beginning, and the protagonist couldn't get in. That 8-ball world was Dragon Ball. Close black lens bracket. It's terrifying. Is this the fantasy president? In one thought, the dragons perished. God. No, above God. How can there be such a terrifying guy in the world? Impossible. In comparison, the former Black Mage Zelf and the Dragon King Akunoroki are completely incomparable. Above evil, great evil. The most ferocious and evil in history, that is above the great evil. The name is indeed correct. Those who are still alive are staring blankly at the light in the distance. In the sky of the illusion world, one day was empty, and Emperor Qin's figure reflected in the sky, projecting tens of thousands of lights, killing all the rebellious giant dragons in one breath. 400 years ago, Akunorokia hunted dragons, and it was only a little bit of killing that was finally killed. This time, Emperor Qin was able to destroy a group of giant dragons almost instantly. The two were not the same. The rest of the giant dragons who had surrendered were terrified one by one. They were fortunate that they surrendered early. If they surrendered a second later, they would also die. In the face of that desperate power, there was no way to fight against it. After a long time, the brilliance dissipated, and everything returned to peace. Qinyang Vivi raised his head and stared at the sky in the fantasy world. On the side of the great sun, a new star is gradually taking shape. The third world. With the fusion of the fairy tale world, the fantasy world is solidified again. Once I reach the 7-star level, the fantasy world is afraid that there will be earth-shaking changes. It's a hunch. The current illusion world is just a baby. No, it's not even a baby, it's just a placenta and an embryo. But after the 7-star main body, the illusion world that has accumulated enough power will change. As for the form of this change, Qinyang does not know. It is certain that it will become stronger. Thinking of this, he looked at the remaining 3,500 dragons. You join the giant dragon army, the army commander, you are the wings of death. In the future, you will fight in other worlds. If you perform well, you can leave the army and regain your freedom. Qinyang said calmly, is there any opinion? Don't dare. The group of dragons bowed their heads, none of them dared to fly in the air. All of them crawl on the ground, lowering the proud heads of the dragon race. It's as if someone pointed a gun at your head and asked if you were moved, and the answer was naturally, don't dare to move. Hearing this, Deathwing immediately flew down and landed in front of the group of dragons. Roar. After the dragon roared, Deathwing opened his mouth and said, my giant dragon army, with a total of 3,510 giant dragons, will set up a team. Except for the first team, each team will lead 500 giant dragons. Dragon. Why, the first team, led by Deathwing himself, selected the strongest 1,000 dragons. Tilda. The second team, led by Shanlong, Irene, has a size of 500. The third team, led by the Black Dragon, Akunorokia, although this guy has been washed of his mind and his combat power is only 70 to 80% of the heyday, it is still an abyss, enough to serve as the captain. The fourth team was led by the Fire Dragon King, Agunal. The fifth team, led by the Iron Dragon, Metallicana. The sixth team, led by Tianlong, Grandin. The general structure of the Legion is set up like this: more than 3,500 dragons, the general world, is enough to conquer. Join the Legion commander. Immediately, all the giant dragons shouted in unison. Seeing this, Qinyang withdrew his gaze, turned to Mila, and said, the purpose of my waiting in this world has been achieved, and what I promised you can now be done for you. Do you want to see you now? Sister. Yes, please help me with MSTER. Mira said without thinking. Okay, come with me. Qinyang nodded, waved his hand, scrolled the space, and rolled Mila into it. The next moment, the two disappeared together. And while they disappeared, the other side. Uchiha Itachi looked at Hyperion with cold eyes. I admit defeat. Hyperion fell weakly to the ground. No matter what I do, I can't escape this illusion. It's like a cycle of fate. I will always return to the starting point, back to the moment I was intercepted by you. After a pause, he closed his eyes again. Go ahead, I am ashamed to be the speaker, and I am powerless to protect this continent. Do you want me to kill you? Uchiha Itachi was unmoved. It doesn't make sense to trample an ant to death. We don't bother to kill you, but you can hand it over except for your speaker. The Holy Ten Council will also be reorganized and renamed. Dream, the council has 5 members. The Council of Dreams, the highest magical institution that rules Ishgar. Speaker, Joseph Zala, is controlled by the Sea Dragon. Congressman, Makarov, balances Joseph's power. The counselor, Mila, is in charge of supervision duties and is directly responsible to Qinyang. Counselor, Gerald, a converted, fallen into the dark, and a dream-worshipping Holy Ten. As for the last member of parliament, Qinyang originally planned to hand it over to Elsa, but considering that there were too many people in Fairy Tale, he cancelled it. Therefore, the 5th member, Qinyang, is ready to give to Urrutia. Of course, Ulu can also. The mother-daughter duo are currently on Karna Island, and they are thinking against the wall because of what happened before. Any comments? No, Hyperion smiled bitterly. You have this level of power, and no one's opinion can interfere with your decision. Just please don't bring catastrophic disaster to the mainland. Parallel world, different from Islandin, which is another world where the Battle of Dragons just happened. Its name is Adris. In Edris, there are floating islands, which are very magical. At this moment, in the sky above an island, the space ripples, and 2 figures appear one after another. Illusory world merges with the world of Fairy Tale. Qinyang is the master of this world. It is easy to take people to a parallel world. Is this the world Lysina lives in? Mira looked in amazement. It feels very different. I can't use magic anymore. Hearing this, Qinyang flicked his fingers, and a white light entered his chest. You can use magic now. He pointed down and said, did you see it? There, in that forest, the Fairy Tale Guild exists there. Your sister, right there. Just as he finished speaking, Mira had already flown over. I am in a hurry. Qinyang muttered silently, don't be too surprised to see another self. Besides, the 2 worlds have very different personalities. It's better not to fight. After complaining, Qinyang ignored it and looked into the distance. It was a very big city and a king in this world. The king of this world, and the wildness, I will stop by to cook. Thinking of this, Qinyang moved and disappeared. Chapter 0725_summoned. Second update. What kind of fairy sword, marvel, etc. Wait until the first stage of Dragon Ball is written before thinking about it. No way, it's not over so soon. Close black lens bracket. Times are changing and the world is developing. In the big trend, the vast majority of people pass the month without knowing it. 1 month has passed since the day when the group of dragons walked out of the gate of the solar eclipse and an artificial solar eclipse appeared in the sky. It seems that everything has returned to calm again, and everything is on the right track again. Except for the appearance of an abyss and ravine across the entire country within Fiore's territory, the rest did not seem to have changed much. No, there are still changes. The already disbanded Fairy Tale, with the efforts of Urza, Natsu, Gray and others, has been reorganized again, and the new guild hall has been built 1 month later today. Mira got what she wanted and found her sister Lysina, and also saw herself in another parallel world. Of course, while Mira found Lysana, Qinyang also went to take care of the king of Edris Kingdom and shattered the opponent's wildness. During this period, he also met Urza of Edris, Urza Netwaka, a majestic, slightly dark, barren admiral army who feared the loss of magic power in the world. Compared with Urza Bersarion, there is really nothing to mention about this Urza Netwoka, except that she looks the same. There is a big difference. Chinyong just chatted a little with the other party, and then left. These are just small changes. The real big changes are about the council. The first generation council was called the Magic Council, which was disintegrated due to the indiscriminate use of magic wizard power and the failure of the formation of the Light Alliance. The second generation council is the Sacred 10 Council, which consists of the 10 most outstanding mages from the Ishgar continent. It is a pity that this council has become history, and there are several incomplete saints. Today, the third generation council is the Dream Council, controlled by Dream, consisting of only 5 members. These 5 people are Joseph, Makarov, Mira, Gerard, and Arusha. It is worth mentioning that, in order to make Arusha qualified for this position, after stepping into the realm of gods, the elemental lord strengthened her a little, so that her magic power reached the level of the pseudo-abyss, which can be compared to Mira. Of course, these are changes to Ishgar. In the Western continent, there are also earth-shaking changes. The most notable is the Albarez Empire, where the original emperor died and the new emperor was appointed by Aaron Bersalian. The guardian of the 12 shields, half of them died, except for Irene, only 5 people chose to surrender. Therefore, the name of the 12 shields could not be continued, and it was changed to 5 sages of the empire. After having a dreamy approval, Irene seized the power of the empire and began to exert influence on the Western continent. It can be said that in just 1 month, the Western continent has basically become a word. At this point, the 2 continents of the fairy tale world, the dream has been indirectly controlled. The continent of Ishgar, the kingdom of Fury, the town of Magnolia. The collision between the Light Alliance and the Dark Council once left a deep mark on the town. But this ancient city is still thriving today. At the end of the main street, passing through the Cathedral of Cardia, and after crossing a stone bridge, a brand new guild is being unveiled. Fairy Tale. Compared with the original guild, the current guild is 3 times bigger. The first floor was more grand and lively, the second floor became the gathering place for the guild's S-rank mages, and the third floor was where the guild leader belonged. As for the basement originally used to hide the first generation, it is no longer needed, and it has been directly transformed into a warehouse. At this moment, on the first floor of the guild hall, Makarov is delivering an important speech. The little old man stood on the second floor, coughed twice, and said to the entire fairy tale below, "Everyone has gone through hardships and practiced their own magic. After the guild was disbanded, they did not waste their cultivation. Now they have gathered again to form a big family again. I am very happy, I can say to the first generation responsibly, I, the president of the third generation, did not make fairy tale ashamed. You are all excellent wizards, united, loving, longing for adventure, to whether fairy tale exists, eternal mystery, with a desire to know." Having said this, he coughed again. Next, let the first generation president, Mebis Viviamilio, speak. "Hello everyone, my name is Mebis." Accompanied by a cheerful voice, a little girl with big golden waves came to the second floor. Whether fairies have tails or not, in the end, no one can be sure whether fairies exist or not. Because of this is an eternal unknown and eternal adventure. Mebis' eyes slowly swept over the people below, and said in a melodious tone, "Everyone, work hard for the adventure in your heart. In the journey of adventure, it will be worthwhile to gain friendship, family affection, and love." Funny thing about looking back. Quote. Just as he was talking, suddenly, a figure walked in outside the gate. No, 2 figures. Mila. Makarov was taken aback, and then saw the silver-haired girl behind Mila who was owed her hand by Mila. Listen, Natsu said in shock. Even after a few years, he still recognized it at a glance. "Hello everyone," Listen said nervously. Mila said helplessly, "You have to say hello, Listen. Sister, I haven't seen you for a long time. Wow, Natsu, you've grown so big, you were just a little kid." Seeing Natsu, Listena's tone suddenly relaxed a lot. However, in this atmosphere, Makarov's face sank. Mira, why did you join Dream? And before he could finish speaking, Mebus raised his hand to stop him, but looked at Mila with a smile and said, "You did a great job, Mila. The first-generation president. In a sense, you protected Fairy Tale, and you protected Ishgar." The first generation looked Mila up and down, her small eyes paused in front of the other person's chest, and then muttered, "No wonder they asked you to be an image ambassador. Can today's girls grow so big?" Mebus looked angrily at his flat chest. However, she quickly came back to her senses. Well, what are you here to convey? You are now a member of the council. Hearing this, Mila took a deep breath, and after being silent for a while, she spoke seriously. "Please, Urza, Natsu, and Mebus, come with me. Master Lord Chindi wants to see you." As soon as these words came out, the atmosphere in the hall suddenly sank. After the stiff division, Mebus spoke easily. "Don't worry, that person wants to kill me, he has already done it. But, Mira, can I ask you a question?" "First-generation president, please ask." "Dream, why is it called a dream?" Hearing this, Mira Vivi was startled, but she didn't expect Mebus' problem to be this kind of thing. "About the name, Dream, I also asked the master curiously, and his answer was..." After a pause, Mira explained with a smile, "Dream, it is a mysterious creature. No one has seen it, but it does exist. It is omnipresent, it is the eternal unknown, it is a dark sign." "Really?" Mebus was silent for a long time, seemed to be thinking, and finally nodded with a smile. "Dream, this name is really good, maybe better than Fairy Tale. Natsu, Urza, let's go. Go see that man." Chapter 0726_follower. Ishgar, the Council of Dreams. The original Holy Ten Council was dissolved, and now the Dream Council dominates here. A gorgeous building full of magic, this is Ishgar, or the highest authority in the Eastern continent, ruling the entire magic world. At this moment, on the top floor of the Dream Council building, in an elegant room, Qingyang is sitting upright, staring at the few people in front of him. Natsu Dragon Neil. Elsa Bersarion. Mebus Viviamilio. Gurgel Riet Fox. Aaron Bersalian. Lucy Hatfilia. The six of them were somewhat restrained. Except for Mebus, the other five felt a lot of pressure. Having seen the power before January, their understanding of Emperor Qin was clear enough. "Don't be so nervous, I'm usually a very easy-going person." Qingyang crossed Erlang's legs and said softly, "Do you have a misunderstanding of me? Do you think I'm the big devil who kills without blinking an eye? Is it not?" Everyone was stunned. "Do you know why I want to see you?" Qingyang said again. Hearing this, Mebus said softly, "Are you going to leave? Leave this world? Before leaving, you focused on the six of us." "That's right, I didn't believe in Shang's big brains before 2009, but now, at least Mebus, you are still counter-logical." Qingyang chuckled softly. "What is anti-logic? Since Shang is big and brainless, then Shang is small and naturally very smart." How could Mebus couldn't hear it, and her eyebrows trembled immediately. She hated people saying she was small, in various senses. However, in addition to being angry, he also had a new sense for Emperor Qin. Previously, Emperor Qin had always been a light-hearted character who rarely showed his emotions, but he didn't expect that the other party would also have a side of flirting with other women. No, maybe the other party didn't think she was a woman at all, just thought she was a child. Mebus changed his mind and became even more angry. "I'm looking for you, just to tell you something." Qingyang's smile faded, and he returned to his indifferent attitude. "I'm waiting for a dream, all over the heavens and the world. Your fairy tale is just one of the endless worlds. In your world, the most powerful force is also it is only limited to one planet, but in some extremely powerful worlds, it is a common thing to destroy the stars with a single thought, and even some powerful beings can devour the stars and smash the universe with fists. What is the birth and death of the palm? the fifth step on the sky, the gods above, the king of the universe, the reflection of the heavens, the gods of the sun, the gods and the gods. Although the names are different, the powers they master are all in their own worlds. Top level. The six people could not understand the world depicted by Qin Yang, and Mebus might be able to understand a little bit. In the turbulent flow of time and space, there are countless worlds like yours, which can't be described by Gang River Sand, nor can Asengi and Nyuta be described. Even incredible is immeasurable. Quote. Qin Yang shook his head and said, "Do you think I'm interested in going to the beach and crushing a grain of sand on purpose? No, you are not sand, but an atom in the sand. Small. So, you don't have to worry, I will suddenly go crazy and want to destroy the whole world. I just made the rules, as long as you follow the rules I made, don't offend Jinji, and you can do whatever you want." Mebus looked solemn. It's not that he is afraid of Qin Yang's power, but that he is afraid of these words. The other party's vision is not in the same world at all. Of course, these words made her feel a little more at ease. "A big man like you, there's no need to lie to us on purpose, I believe you." Mebus said, "I won't offend your Jinji, and I will also restrain Fairy Tale, please rest assured." "That would be best." Qin Yang nodded. "Actually, I hope your magic will develop more prosperously. The more prosperous, the greater the benefits this world brings to him. The 6-star master of the elements, but the 7th star is far away, and he has not even reached the main body." Gurgel. Thinking of this, Qin Yang looked at Tai Long and said, "Since you are going to rely on me, I will make an arrangement for you before you leave. Choose, you want to leave with us or stay here?" "Lord Qin Emperor, I choose to stay here," Jijil said solemnly. "The big world you describe is too early for me." "No problem. Mila, how about you?" "Master, you are kind to me. Although you Dream has done a lot of bad things, since I joined Dream, I have always been a member of Dream. I will be in the council to monitor everyone for you." Mira hesitated for a moment, then finally shook her head. Although she wanted to go to the outside world to see, but considering the issue of repaying her kindness, it was better to stay. With her little power, any member of Dream is stronger than her. Even if she leaves, what can she do? Do you serve tea and water? Since it's your decision, you can do whatever you want. I will never force anyone to join us, nor will I force members to make a decision. This is also one of the meanings of fantasy. Qin Yang agreed, then looked at Aaron and Arusa. "You mother and daughter, I don't really want to tell you anything. I called you here, just wanted to meet you." "Emperor Qin," Irene rolled her eyes, "I'm very busy." He. "If you forget to add the word adult next time, I will teach you a good lesson." Qin Yang pouted. "Elsa, use the sword I gave you, use it well. When you can master it, you will be able to walk out of this world. We will meet again." After he finished speaking, he looked at Lucy again. "Our shadow demon was entrusted by your father to take you back and marry you, but you know the result. Now, your father's consortium should go bankrupt, probably soon. I will be desperate and ask you to borrow money." Quote. "What?" Lucy looked surprised. "I called you here to give you this." Qin Yang flicked his fingers, and all the 12 keys of the zodiac flew into Lucy's hands. "You people are born to be celestial wizards, these 12 keys are of no use to me, back to you." Then, he flipped over and took out a book and handed it to Natsu. "This was entrusted to us by your brother before he died, and now, it is returned to you." "My brother?" Natsu was confused. "What is this?" "The Book of End, you are his greatest masterpiece, the strongest demon end." Qin Yang was too lazy to talk nonsense, waved his hand, scrolled the space, and pushed the 6 people out of the door. "With all that said, you do it well." The last words were passed out, and the 6 people had mixed feelings. Irene looked at her daughter, moved her mouth, and whispered after a while, "I-687 Lusa, don't get too involved with Emperor Qin. You are not a person of the same level, it will be very uncomfortable to get along with." Urza didn't know why, her mother seemed a little weird when she heard a sword that Emperor Qin gave her. Inside the house, Qinyang stretched his waist and got up from the sofa. It's finally over. There's nothing worth digging into in this world. Prepare your ear. Have you ever thought about it after eavesdropping for so long? Qinyang turned his eyes to the corner of the room. Hearing this, Urusha pursed her lips and said helplessly, Lord Qin Emperor, you are so heartless, you didn't even call me. Isn't it arranged for you? Are you still not satisfied with being a member of parliament? Well, I've given up my position to my mother. Urusha smiled tenderly, walked over a few steps, and got close to Qinyang's mouth. I want to leave with Lord Qindi. I don't care if I can help, and it seems that letting Lord Qin leave alone, so bleak. Hearing this, Qinyang's eyes twitched. This woman had been hitting on him from the very beginning, but she had to leave and stick to him. Forget it, it's up to you. Follow along if you like. Don't expect me to go back in time and resurrect you when you die. Well, no, Lord Qin Emperor is cruel to his enemies, but he is very kind to his own people. Urusha was not nervous at all, but instead smiled. Qinyang didn't bother to pay attention to it. He waved his hand to tear the space apart, and stepped into the turbulent flow of time and space. Seeing this, Urusha quickly followed, for fear of being a step slower. The two disappeared one after another, and time and space returned to peace. Lord Qin Emperor, no matter where you go, I will follow you. Volume 4 Fate. Chapter 0727-New World Fate. Time and Space Turbulence. This is a chaotic space. No, it cannot be called space. It has no concept of up, down, left and right, not even time. Everything is still, but it is not absolutely still, and it is in an extremely mysterious state. Here, it is dull and dull, everything is white and gray as far as the eyes can see, and occasionally there will be turbulent flashes, similar to the great whirlpool in the sea, scrolling everything around, and what is involved, it is difficult to break free and disappear without a trace. After leaving Fairy Tale World, Qinyang appeared here. Behind him, a crack was slowly closing. Before closing, a delicate shadow flashed and quickly followed. You're really not afraid of death? Qinyang glanced at her and couldn't help shaking his head. It looks dangerous. I can't feel the magic particles. Urusha's breathing was stagnant. For mages, magic particles were like oxygen. Without magic particles, various problems would occur in the body. She had just stepped into this place, and she already felt a slight weakness in her body. I said, don't come here, it's really troublesome. Qinyang rolled his eyes and waved his hand immediately. A mysterious force was injected into the opponent's body, instantly dispelling the opponent's weakness. I'm fine again, Urusha said in surprise. It's amazing, obviously I can't feel the magic particles, but I seem to be able to use magic. As she said that, she turned her eyes, approached Qinyang with a smile, rolled up her arms, and put her body on it. Lord Qin Emperor, where is this? Qinyang calmly pulled back his embraced right hand, and then explained, this is called time and space turbulence. In words you can understand, you can imagine it is an ocean, and every fish in the ocean, it's all one world, and we're in the sea right now. You can see it when you look back. Hearing this, Urusha didn't even bother to seduce Qinyang, so she turned to look back, and at a glance, she couldn't help being surprised. It was a black and white sphere. One side was black and the other was white. The sphere was not large, it looked like it was only the size of a disc, and it exuded an ancient atmosphere. Is this the world I was in before? Qinyang was too lazy to pay attention to this. He stretched out his hand and saw that in the turbulent flow ahead, a golden fish was swimming quickly. Such a cute fish. Are there fish living in such a dangerous place? Urusha was full of curiosity. Time Fish ignored her and swam to Qinyang's body. Vivi nodded, then turned into a white light and disappeared into Qinyang's mouth. The harvest is not small. The time-space fish is an illusory body. It did not appear in the Battle of the Dragons before, but it has been searching for a new world in the turbulent time and space. Of course, Chin-Yong chose the trusteeship mode, which was almost on hook, so he didn't care much. Now take back the space-time fish and immediately discover where the new world is. 2 new worlds, great. Chin-Yong, Vivi Isho, immediately followed the information brought by the time-space fish and headed towards the depths of the time-space turbulence. Wait for me, Lord Chin Emperor. Urusha shouted and immediately wanted to keep up, but in the turbulent time and space, she couldn't even move, and was quickly pulled by a large vortex, and she was about to be involved. Chin-Yong was speechless, so he could only reach out and grab her, grabbing her beside him in the air. It's such a dangerous place. Urusha was dripping with cold sweat. This kind of place, even if it's an abyss like Jeff and Black Dragon, you'll have to die when you come here. Having said that, he immediately grabbed Chin-Yang's clothes, without any embarrassment. Go away. Chin-Yong was helpless, so he had no choice but to grab the opponent's hand and quickly walked towards the target. From now on, don't talk. If you talk nonsense, I'll lose you. Space-time turbulence has no concept of time. Chin-Yong didn't know how long it had passed. In terms of sensory time, it was probably more than a month. Of course, this is not real time, just a sensory illusion. Chin-Yong found the target. Those are 2 worlds, with different shapes. The world on the left is in the shape of a water bottle. It is extremely huge, about 10,000 times the size of the fairy tale world. With Chin-Yang's power, it is impossible to see through it. The world on the right is a little more normal. It is a common ellipse, but its scale is still dozens or hundreds of times that of fairy tale. Huan, how are these 2 worlds? Chin-Yong asked in his heart. The one on the left is very dangerous. Like the previous 8-ball world, it cannot be entered now. Moreover, there must be something similar to the will of the world. It is inappropriate to invade rashly. Fantasy Jean said. As for the one on the right, it probably also has the will of the world, but the risk is much lower. With your current strength, there is no problem in invading. Be careful not to be discovered. Of course, it doesn't matter if you discover it. 1 of 2 happiness. Chin-Yong raised his eyebrows. The world is endless in the turbulent flow of time and space. It is the first time I have seen a world as big as the water bottle world, on the left. Then right, is there a way to invade the fantasy world? It works. Hearing this, Chin-Yong immediately started. The phantom world came, and with the power of the phantom world, it turned into a spear that ripped apart the wall of the world, piercing a crack, allowing him to invade. This kind of thing has been done once before, and this time it is even more familiar. I saw the spear of the world flashing all kinds of illusions, suddenly shot out, thrown into the world on the right, and soon broke a very small hole with guilt. The next moment, Chin-Yong rolled up Urusha and rushed into it. This is a modern city with transparent lights and feasting. Right now, it's night time. At the top of a tall building, a man and a woman were having a tryst on the roof. When their friendship was strong, they were about to kiss when suddenly, on the side of the 2, the space distorted like a wave of water. Whoosh! In a flash of brilliance, a man and a woman suddenly appeared. Ah! The men and women in the tryst shouted, scared out of their minds. Ha, come in. Chin-Yong breathed lightly. The protection is much stronger than the world of fairy tale. If it hadn't been integrated with the world of fairy tale, with the power of the illusory realm, it might not be able to be opened. It seems that this world is stronger. Much. Just as he was thinking, he noticed the men and women on the tryst beside him. No mistake, hungry, avocado. Speak human words. Lord Chin Emperor, what is this place? Such a tall building. Such a beautiful city, Urusha said with a smile. Who knows? Chin-Yong shook his head. How did he know what world it was? But it was a modern world, that was certain. And from the perspective of urban layout and night view, it is not a future city. Are there 2 people here? Urusha looked at the pair of men and women, with a playful smile on the corners of her mouth. It's impossible for you to see it. Don't come here. The man yelled in horror. At this moment, the sky was suddenly overcast, and a heavy pressure suddenly hit. This kind of pressure is not felt by men and women in the tryst, but Chin-young and Arusha clearly feel it. Repulsion, willpower, killing intent, etc., various words can describe it. Humph! Chin-young snorted coldly. How dare you spy on this emperor even in a mere planet's will? The will of the planet is nothing, it is not the way of heaven, or the will of the universe, Rahuo, he can smash the planet. Go away. Chapter 0728-Heroic World. Go away. Chin-young scolded coldly, and with an order, the dark clouds above the sky seemed to be provoked, and lightning flashed and thundered in an instant. Boom. Thunder bursts, as if the sky is angry and wants to punish. However, the strange thing is that under this suffocating pressure, the men and women on the tryst didn't notice at all. This rejection was completely directed at Chin-young and Arusha. Chin-young is not false, but Arusha, in front of this planetary will, suddenly pale as paper, the sweat drops that are the size of beans, the whole person can't breathe, and his brain will faint. Lord Chindi, this momentum is far beyond common sense. Arusha has never felt such a terrifying momentum, as if all the cells in the body are shaking. If you are afraid, you can go back, hide in the illusion world, or go back to the fairy tale world. Chin-young glanced at her. No, I want to follow Lord Chin Emperor, even if I die. Arusha became weaker, but very firm. She stretched out her trembling hand and grabbed Chin-young's sleeve. Hearing this, Chin-young was speechless. I don't know why this woman is so persistent, but Chin-young is not driving the other party away, considering the other party's resolute avatar. Forget it, since you want to, just stay by my side during this time. Shaking his head, Chin-young looked up at the sky. The planets will seem to be accumulating strength, and he would not hesitate to use the entire 120 city as a burial, but also to expel and obliterate him and Arusha. HMPH, just the will of a planet, get out of here. Chin-young was too lazy to talk nonsense, and punched him violently. This punch used the power of the Phantom God, which is his essential power, and punched away, instantly shattering the vacuum. Boom. In an instant, the clouds in the sky were blasted into a pothole, and the accumulated power disappeared in a flash. Huh. Chin-young raised his eyebrows and said inwardly, I intended to break the sky with one punch, but the will of the planet protected the sky, so that there was not much resistance at all, and I was blasted away. It seems that Chin-young's power also has a headache, and the dissipated will of the planet has not appeared again. I can't get hold of me for the time being, so you hid it. Chin-young thought about it, and he was afraid that there would be troubles in the future. For example, walking on the road, you can step on dog shit. This is definitely not a matter of luck, but the will of the planet. It's the first time I've encountered a world with a will. It seems to be a little low-key. I can't kill it once. The so-called low-key is naturally a restraint of power. If you cannot use the body illusion, try to use it as little as possible. He is low-key, and the planet's will is not easy to lock him. When he will leave this world, he will clean up the planet's will. And as this will dissipates, the vision in the sky also disappears, and the suffocating pressure is not there. Arusha recovered and said breathlessly, as expected of Lord Chin, I almost died just now. It was for me, you are just passing by. Remember to run farther next time, and the pressure will be much less. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Arusha wanted to cry without tears. She knew she should have walked away. Seeing to see her thoughts, Chin-young couldn't help laughing. It's too late for you to go back now. I don't want it. I finally came to this world, of course I want to see it. Arusha shook her head again and again, then remembered something, and suddenly looked at the man and woman. Lord Chin, how should these two deal with the situation? Based on the previous situation, is it better not to reveal the whereabouts of our invasion? Kill. Between the words, she has already stepped towards the two of them. Immediately, a magic force came out from the body and locked the opponent. In Qin Yang's opinion, Urusha's power is not worth mentioning, but for mortals, it is a power beyond common sense, a god. The two men and one woman immediately felt dizzy, trembling all over, and were so frightened that they lost control. I have more questions to ask. Qin Yang stopped her from moving, turned to look at the two of them, and said, answer me a few questions. I am satisfied, I can spare you from dying, but it will wash away your memories. If you ask 3 questions, then go to hell. Desperate Mandarin duck. Nod when you understand. Hearing this, the man and woman were like drowning people, grabbing the last straw and nodding hurriedly. First question, where is this? Japan, Japan. The girl timidly spoke, her voice fluctuating violently. Qin Yang frowned, where is Japan? Which city? Of course, you can also tell me about famous schools, specific buildings, or some magical institution. This is Fuyuki City, a famous school. The girl was sweating profusely, and for a while, she couldn't think of how to answer. Fuyuki City. Qin Yang was stunned. You mean Fuyuki City? Is it such a coincidence? He had only expected to find the heroic spirit world before, and this happened. However, it is only Fuyuki City that cannot be completely determined. How many years is it now? 994 years. Hearing this, Qin Yang squinted his eyes, and his perception radiated outwards, covering the entire city in an instant. What's the matter, Lord Qin Emperor? Urusha asked curiously. He. Qin Yang chuckled twice, stretched out his hand and pressed the two men and women. A wave of spiritual power came out, hypnotizing the other party, and by the way, from the soul level, the memory of the other night was washed away. I have good news for you, Urusha. Doing this, Qin Yang turned around, walked to the edge of the roof, and looked at the night view of the entire city. This world is very interesting. About 6,000 years ago, there were countless gods. Of course, with the passage of time, in modern times, the gods have disappeared, the mysteries have retreated, and magic has risen. This is a world full of magic. Magic. What is that? You can understand it as magic of a general nature. For example, the magic of fire. Here, it should be called magic. It turns out that it is very different from the world we came from. Urusha thought about it and immediately said, I tried it just now. I can use magic, although there are no magic particles in this world, but after using it, the recovery is relatively slow. It seems that the arc of time can also be used. Drops of the moon should also be fine. The arc of time, Qin Yang said playfully. This should be considered magic, beyond the magic of magic. There are still 5 major magics in this world. Your arc of time should be classified into in 6th magic. Even if it's not, it's close to magic power. Interesting. After a pause, he added, among the 5 magics, the 3rd magic is soul materialization. Relying on this magic, modern magicians can use holy relics to summon heroic spirits in history. These magicians are called master. The summoned heroic spirit becomes a servant, and the Holy Grail, battle between the master and the servant, revolving around the realization of all wishes, is called the Holy Grail War. The Holy Grail, all wishes come true. Urusha was taken aback, then blinked. Lord Qin Emperor, this Holy Grail seems very interesting. Are we going to participate in the Holy Grail War? Holy Grail War. Qin Yang curled his lips. What's there to participate in the children's game? As he was speaking, in his perception, the aura of 3 heroic spirits suddenly erupted in the territory of Fuyuki City. Every breath is ancient, mysterious, and full of chills, as if in the war of iron and blood, a sea of corpses has piled up. However, in 1994, it was the 4th Heroic Spirit War. There is a heroic spirit that I would like to meet. Who? Is the heroic spirit the soul of a hero of the past? There's nothing wrong with that. As for who? Qin Yang turned his eyes and looked to the northwest. His eyes seemed to have traveled through endless distances, across Japan, across Asia, and caught a glimpse of Europe. In Germany, he saw a castle covered in winter snow, and inside the castle, a girl who was summoned. Artoria Pendragon. Chapter 0729-Dumb King. In Germany, in a certain valley, there is a castle. It is snowy all year round, the world is extremely cold, and the castle is surrounded by a thick layer of snow. Here is the Einsborn family, one of the 3 giants in the magic world, commonly known as the royal family. At this moment, in Einsborn Castle, in a hall that resembles a church, a man and a woman are holding a mysterious ceremony. On the ground is a magic circle depicted by blood donation, which outlines a mysterious and ancient atmosphere. The man stood in front of the magic circle with a cold expression on his face. It's not that he can exude a cold breath, but this kind of temperament is a part of him. He is like a killer. His name is Emiya Kuritsugu. It started. Emiya Kuritsugu took a step back, reminded the woman behind him, and then stretched out his right hand to start the summoning ceremony. On his right hand, there is a bright red mark, which is called curse. Suddenly, a low and gradually high incantation slowly came out of his mouth. Declaration. Your body is under my command, and my destiny is attached to your sword. Respond to the call of the Holy Grail, obey this will, the truth, respond to me. The voice suddenly rose, the magic circle flashed blue light, and the breath spread out, as if something was about to appear. I am the one who accomplishes all the good deeds in the world, and the one who collects all the evils in the world. Chan Rao's 3 great words of the 7 heavens, appear through the wheel of inhibition. Guardian of the scales. Boom. The aura increased sharply, and the blue and white aura circulated and spread out, filling the magic circle. In the fog-like aura, a black figure appeared. Did it work? The woman behind her said in surprise. The man didn't speak, he stared coldly at the thick fog, trying to see the heroic spirit that appeared. The thick fog gradually began to dissipate, and the voice of the person in the fog came out. Servant, Saber, follow the call. Just ask, you or mine. The voice was female and full of heroic spirit, but it stopped abruptly in the middle of the conversation. Who? The fog faded away, but there was no feedback from the house. Man frowned without a trace. Night King is a woman. It was only then that the heroic spirit that appeared was completely revealed in front of the 2 of them. This is a heroic woman with soft snow-white skin, golden hair with a shawl, green pupils, and firm eyes. There was just a hint of confusion in his eyes. Strange, I can clearly feel people cite that feeling, it's like seeing. She was silent in her heart, and after a while, she looked at Emiya Kuritsugu. Are you my master? Are you really the king of knights? Before Emiya Kuritsugu could speak, the silver-haired woman asked curiously, what's your name? Artoria Pendragon. Follow the call of the Holy Grail and make a contract with you. Japan, Fuyuki City, the top of the building. Urusha chewed on the name, Artoria Pendragon. Sounds like a woman. The king of a kingdom 1500 years ago, the king of knights. Qin Yang, Vivi Isho, took his eyes back. He did not expect that Arturia could find his spying, and his perception was very sharp. Of course, it's also because he didn't hide it deliberately. After all, he wouldn't do any little tricks, so he couldn't hide it. I like to call her, the Dumb King. Hearing this, Yulusha said quietly, Lord Qin Emperor seems to have different feelings for her, do you like it? Like? Qin Yang laughed dumbly, I admire such a girl very much. Saying that, he shook his head and looked at the outskirts of the city. We were lucky, we just happened to meet 3 magicians in Fuyuki City who summoned heroic spirits. Let's go, let's meet one of them for a while, of course, but don't expose. As soon as the voice fell, he dodged and disappeared quickly. Seeing this, Urusha couldn't help but pursed her lips, secretly remembering the name, Artoria, in her heart. If Lord Qin can be called by a nickname, this woman must be very good. Urusha wanted to see what kind of person he was, or how he could please Emperor Qin. Thinking so, she quickly followed. Fuyuki City, suburbs. In the magic circle full of chicken blood, a burly, tall man slowly stood up. The man has short red hair, red pupils, and a large red cloak. He is 2 meters tall, with muscles tied all over his body. He is majestic, tall, and extremely strong. At first glance, this person is a hero, and just standing there is an uncontrollable arrogance. You little one, are you my master? In front of the bold man, a frail boy with shoulder-length hair was looking at each other in surprise. The boy was panting, and after seeing the success of the summoning, he sat down on the ground, and after seeing the summoned heroic spirit, he couldn't help grinning. I'm Weber, Weber Velvet. Your master. The boy who called himself Weber said excitedly, what's your name? I, Iskander, the Conqueror. However, at this moment, a sword light flickered, and a strike came from a few hundred meters away. The Conqueror King Haihei narrowed his eyes, turned his eyes, and at the same time pulled out a long sword from his waist and blocked it suddenly. Boom! The sword energy is vertical and horizontal, extremely heavy. Tisk! The King of Conqueror snorted and was forced to retreat dozens of meters with a sword. Is it just when I was summoned, was it discovered? You can't wait to knock at the door, who are you? He, a low laughter came, the King of Conquest, Alexander the Great, Iskander, the rank is Rider Cavalry. I'll try your strength, don't worry, I won't kill you. After all, the Holy Grail War has just begun. As soon as the voice fell, a figure quickly approached. So fast. Is it caster, assassin? Or saber, swordsman? The King of Conqueror was taken aback. He was surprised to find that it was difficult for him to capture the other person's figure. The speed was so fast that his eyesight could hardly keep up. The mind was spinning, and within a second, the man was already close to him, and at the same time a sword was slashed. At this moment, the King of Conquerors could clearly see the face of the other party. It was a handsome man with blonde hair, and his weapon was a sword, and he was a very famous sword. Saber. With a loud shout, he raised his sword to meet him. Boom. The two swords collided, causing a huge wave in an instant. The ground shattered, and the wind swept through, directly blowing Weber dozens of meters away, breaking a tree, and was seriously injured. What's going on? The heroic spirit I just summoned has been exposed. Saber, where is his master? Chapter 0730-5-star Night King. At the beginning of a normal Holy Grail War, the Holy Grail will select 7 masters and give them command spells. The 7 masters will summon heroic spirits according to the holy relics they have obtained. 7 heroic spirits summoned are divided into 7 ranks. Sabe, swordsman. Lancer, lancer. Archer, archer. Rider, cavalry. Caster, the sorcerer. Assassin, assassin. Berserker, berserker. Just like the rank obtained by these heroic spirits when they appeared in the world, the fighting style that each heroic spirit is good at will also be different. At this moment, the heroic spirit that suddenly appeared, waving the blade, possessed an extraordinary speed. Whether it was the King of Conqueror or its master Weber, the first reaction was saber. Boom boom boom. Swords, lights, swords and shadows. After the weapons collided, dull sounds and shocks were constantly produced. Facing this saber's attack, the King of Conqueror looked extremely solemn, and he had to admit that he was actually suppressed from the front. That sword, who are you who? Once again forced back by a sword, the Conqueror King saw that the other party did not pursue him again, and immediately said, aren't you going to report your name? He. King of Knights chuckled, it seems that you don't know this sword. Of course, you are the King of BC, and I am the King of AD. Fortunately, I also cancel the Wind King's enchantment and deliberately expose the body. Between the words, he turned his hand to hide the oath of victory, and replaced it with a sword. Seeing this, I immediately frowned, stared at the King of Knights, and secretly said, "The second kind of noble phantasm." Although the noble phantasm is not the only one, but using swords at the same time, such a person. You're confused. Don't guess, this weapon is not a noble phantasm. The so-called noble phantasm is a miracle of the materialization of heroic spirit legends. Quote. As he said that, the King of Knights slowly twitched the zanpakuto, and as he drew his sword, a surge of spiritual power suddenly swarmed out. Bankai. The surge of spiritual power suddenly stopped, and then melted like white snow, fading away at once. Huh, the Night King raised his eyebrows and looked into the distance. At the same time, a voice came. Withdraw, someone is here, it's not time to expose too much now. It was a female voice that came from all directions, and no one could locate her exact location. Hearing this, the King of Knights immediately retracted his blade. It's a pity, King of Conquerors, someone interrupted our battle. However, after a short fight, I have a rough judgment on your ability value. I have to say that the famous Conqueror King, it's disappointingly weak. Is it because this master is too weak? Heroic spirits are summoned to the world from the throne of heroes, and their strength will be limited by both rank and master. If the master's magic power is weak, the heroic spirit will be weak and unable to exert its original strength. This boy named Weber doesn't look like a powerful magician, so Alexander's strength will definitely not reach the peak. In contrast, the Night King's phantom body is 5-star, and has no restrictions such as rank and master, and his strength is far from comparable to ordinary heroic spirits. Goodbye, there is a chance, we will meet again, the premise is you can live a few more days. As soon as the voice fell, the King of Knights immediately retreated, as if he had just appeared mysteriously, and now mysteriously disappeared. HMPH, coward. The King of Conquerors sneered, and was not impressed by the King of Knights' words. However, that woman's voice just now is his master. Thinking like this, he turned to look at Weber and said, "What do you know? You are also the master, you can always see something, that guy's identity. That person is King Arthur, the King of Knights." Weber took a deep breath and calmed his nervousness. King of Ancient Britain. The weapon used for the first time should be the Sword of Oath of Victory. As for the second Japanese sword, I don't know, I have never heard of the King of Knights Club. With a Japanese sword. The night sky on the outskirts of Fuyuki City, under a big tree. Urusha held the crystal ball, which reflected the previous scene. When the King of Knights disappeared, she said softly, "Lord Qin Emperor, the strength of this Conqueror King is very average, probably even I can't beat it. If the so-called heroic spirits are of this level, the heroic spirit war is really a child's play. Game." Hearing this, Qin Yang pouted. "The reason why you think his power is not high is because the King of Knights is more powerful. You must know that the 5-star Night King has the power of a Dream Master." Fifth change, King of Knights Old Sword. Star rating. Ability 1, Wind King Enchantment. Ability 2, Super Intuitive. Ability 3, The Sword of Oath of Victory. Ability 4, A Distant Ideal Hometown. Ability 5, Legend of the King of Knights. When the fantasy army conquered the fairy tale world, the King of Knights finally reached 5 stars from 4 stars in the world of death, thus unlocking the ultimate power. Ability 5, The Legend of the King of Knights. The function of this ability is not to kill the enemy, nor the world domain, but a state skill, similar to the Sea Dragon God of the Sea Dragon, and the Ten-Tailed Person Pillar Force of Uchiha Madara, that is, the 6-path mode. The specific effect is to gain a lot of belief from history, and from the legend of the King of Knights, to gain people's worship, so as to gain divinity in a short period of time, step into the realm of demigods, and improve one's power in all directions, and this great increase. The first time you see the King of Knights, it's natural that you don't know him. You will know later that he is similar to the King Lord, and Aizen. Qin Yang shook his head and turned to leave. "Let's go, find a hotel first, we have important things to do tomorrow." "Yes." Urusha immediately put away the crystal ball and quickly followed. "By the way, Lord Qin Emperor, shall I continue to play the role of the Master of the King of Knights in the future? You are the 3.96th magician in the world, and the 8th master, independent of the heroic spirit war. Although the heroic spirit war is not interesting, and the Holy Grail has no power now, but play with them a little, after all, I still have a few things to confirm. Quote. For example, what form does the mysterious power of this world take, and where does the origin of the world exist? In addition, even if the 5-star Night King reached 6 stars, he had to think of a surefire way. Oh. Urusha seemed to understand, but she was too lazy to think too much. She naturally had to follow Emperor Qin's orders. At the same time, outside the previous battle point, a black shadow appeared on a branch. The shadow is like a walker in the dark night, lurking in the shadows. Strange, who is the master of that heroic spirit? Chapter 0731-Dongfeng Express, the mission must be achieved. Fuyuki City, a small seaside town in the far east of Japan, takes its name from the extremely long winter. But in fact, the climate here is warm and will not be hit by severe cold. In Fuyuki City, there is a Miwan River running through the city, dividing the whole city into 2 parts with different architectural styles. On the east side is Shindu, a modern new city. On the west side is the old town of Shenshin Town, which is basically only a residential area. The big river between the two connects the underground spiritual veins. Many influential magicians moved there long ago, and these magicians in this spiritual land were managed by the Tasaka family, one of the 3 imperial families. Speaking of the spiritual land, Qinyang felt that this is similar to the empty town in the world of death, both of which are heavy spiritual land and one of the big stages of the story. Every 60 years, the Great Holy Grail will absorb the spiritual power accumulated in the spiritual veins of Fuyuki City, thereby starting the Holy Grail War. In theory, this time is counted as the 4th time. On a high-end luxury car, Qinyang sat in the back row, introducing relevant information about Fuyuki City. The person driving was Urusha. At first, she didn't know how. However, a simple means of transportation such as a car can be easily learned in 09. As for where the car came from, the answer is naturally leasing. As for how the car rental company leases the car to someone without a driver's license, this is the magic of magic hypnosis. Urusha drove the car and slowly drove to the airport according to the map. In the previous 3 Holy Grail Wars, what wishes did the winners make? Immortality, rich enough to rival the country. Who knows? Qinyang shook his head, the current Holy Grail is fake. To be precise, although it can make wishes, the way to achieve wishes will be evil. That thing is useless. Of course, the Holy Grail can connect the root, and Qinyang is still very curious about the root. Now is the 2nd day of coming into this world, at noon. Oh, Urusha still seemed to understand. Lord Qin Emperor, what are we going to do at the airport? Pick up and meet someone by the way. Meet someone, Artoria, Urusha said suspiciously. I would like to go and arrest her even if Lord Qindi was asked to see her. Don't be so arrogant, this world is much more dangerous than yours. Qinyang was speechless. The Holy Grail War you are seeing now is just a small silhouette of this world, a farce worth mentioning. The real powerhouse did not cast his eyes here at all. A real powerhouse will never be stronger than Lord Qin Emperor, right? Urusha laughed. That's impossible to say. Qinyang was very calm. Drive your car well, there are some problems, you can understand them later. Yes, Tilda. There was no words all the way. The car drove on the road for about half an hour, and finally arrived near the airport. Qinyang was not in a hurry to get out of the car. His thoughts moved, and the white clothes on his body suddenly turned into ordinary clothes. Not only that, but also a hat on top of his head. This is... Urusha's eyes widened, looking at Qinyang's dress from the rearview mirror. Compared with the ethereal image of the past, Qinyang now looks like an ordinary young man with no imposing manner, a completely ordinary person. Moreover, on the front of his clothes, the words, Dongfeng Express, or written, and the words, "Mission must be reached," or written on the hat. Arusha was dumbfounded, wondering what Qin Yang wanted to do. "You stay in the car, and if you see a suspicious magician, you can subdue him first." Leaving a sentence, Qin Yang got off at gate of opening. He squeezed the hat on top of his head and walked towards the passenger exit of the airport. Now that he has decided to keep a low profile for the time being, he naturally cannot reveal his identity. Meeting the dumb hair king is just to give the other party something, to invade the seat of heroes, in the future, or, in other words, to bring Artoria from the seat of heroes. Come out and make a preparation. As for why it is, Dongfeng Express, the mission must be reached, it is just a bad taste. Anyway, to play the courier brother, compared to, under one person, it is naturally the Dongfeng Express, of Greater China. More interesting. Shortly after Qin Yang arrived, a private airliner, taking off from Germany, landed at Fuyuki Airport. The cabin door opened and two women stepped out. One of them has a face that is so beautiful that it looks unreal, like a doll, with ruby-like pupils, long silver hair that shines like snow, wearing a white leather jacket and a white fleece. The name of this woman is Alice Phil von Einsborn, one of the three royal families, an artificial human of the Einsborn family. And behind the silver-haired woman, a girl with long blonde hair stepped out. The girl was wearing a black suit and black gloves, her delicate face was full of heroic spirit, and she always had a serious expression. "Saber, how does it feel to travel in the sky?" Irisfeel flipped her long hair and turned back with a smile. "It's not really anything special, it's a lot worse than I expected." During the conversation, the two walked down the stairs and headed for the airport exit. Suddenly, Artoria stared in the direction of the exit and said, "Irisfeel, is there someone who has arranged to pick you up? Anyway, this is too relaxing." "Pick up?" Irisfeel was stunned, as Kuritsugu's arrangement. "I don't know." "Then who's that guy holding the Night King sign over there?" Arturia was full of confusion, but secretly guarded again. Just as he was talking, the man in front had already walked over. "Excuse me, which one is the King of Knights?" Qin Yang, Vivi Isho, walked towards the two of them, even though he said that, his eyes were directly locked on 800 Arturia. Dongfeng Express. Irisfeel was stunned. Why did the courier go to the airport? "That's a good question." Qin Yang praised. "That's because we, Dongfeng Express, have a lofty sense of mission. As long as we accept the task, we will definitely deliver things to customers. Whether you are in Berlin, London, Washington, or Moscow, Dongfeng Express, mission must be accomplished." Quote. Good, great. Irisfeel was not aware of it, although she had never heard of this courier company. "I am, who are you?" Arturia did not smile at all, but stared at Qin Yang sharply. No matter how you looked at it, the other party was just an ordinary person, but someone sent her a courier. No matter how you thought about it, it was strange. "Little courier, bring something to you. You should need it very much." Qin Yang chuckled and put a box in his hand in front of the two of them. "Remember, please open it alone, otherwise, bad things will happen. Then, my mission is over, goodbye, dumb Mao Wang." Dumb King. Arturia was stunned, her eyes subconsciously attracted to the box, but she quickly raised her head again. However, at this glance, the courier brother just now has disappeared without a trace, as if it never existed. This person is who? Arturia froze inwardly. Chapter 0732-Gilgamesh 1. Click. The door opened, Qin Yang returned to the car, and as he sat down, his appearance returned to his original appearance. "Anyone suspicious?" "I didn't see it, there are ordinary people around. However, there are a few ordinary people, probably spies." Arusha said casually, "It should be here to observe the situation." Naturally, it was not them who were observing, but the two of Artorias. "Really? I see, let's go, there should be a good show tonight." Qin Yang chuckled and told Arusha to drive. Immediately, the car started and slowly drove away from the airport. Lord Qin Emperor gave her what? Urusha couldn't help but ask curiously as soon as she left the airport. A scabbard. I moved my hands and feet. If I can be obedient, open it alone, it will be fine. If I open it in front of many people, he. Hearing this, Urusha's thoughts changed, and she always felt that Qin Yang was uneasy and well-meaning. Didn't he appreciate Arturia? What is this for? However, she didn't think too much about it. Next, where is Lord Qin Emperor going? A magician, of course. Qin Yang said softly. In Fuyuki City, the most direct way to find a magician is to go to the Yuansaka family. Pause, he continued. Most of the magicians who live in Fuyuki City are managed by the Tasaka family. Moreover, the principles of using magic in this world are completely different from the principles of magic you are referring to. Magicians use magic, magic circuits are needed, and knowledge about this is necessary. Quote. Okay. Urusha nodded, and immediately found the location of the Tasaka family on the map. The Tasaka family is located on the west side of Fuyuki City, Shenshin Town. Not only the Tasaka family, but also one of the other three imperial families, the Meidou family, is also located in the residential area of Shenshin Town. It is not difficult to find them. Compared to this, Qin Yang thought of a little girl. Meidou Sakura, formerly known as Tasaka Sakura, is the second daughter of the head of the Tasaka family. She has a sister, the famous Tasaka Rin. Of course, at this time in 1994, the two little girls were still Lolita, and the young Sakura was only 5 or 6 years old. Compared with her sister, Tasaka Sakura's childhood was extremely miserable. In order to fulfill the covenant between the Tasaka family and the Meidou family, her father adopted her as the second daughter to the Meidou family. It is normal for a magician family to need an excellent heir with magic qualifications, and it is not a very bad thing. But the head of the Meidou family, in order to cultivate Meidou Sakura, modified Sakura's body on the first day after the adoption, and implanted a large number of engraved insects in her body. Of course, this was the beginning of a tragic fate. Predict. Poor little girl, if you have a chance, you can drop by, 7 Shan. Qin Yang thought to himself. At his level, simply because of sympathy, he won't care about such things. There are so many poor people in the world. If he solves them one by one, he will be too busy. As a magician, Meidou Sakura has high qualifications and special attributes, which is somewhat useful to Qin Yang. Just thinking about it, the car has passed the Dongmu Bridge and entered the old city from the new district. It didn't take long for the car to stop outside a mansion, and Urusha deliberately parked far away in order to avoid being shocked by the grass. That's it. Go. Qin Yang nodded and got out of the car first. Urusha followed and asked, Lord Qin, shall we call the door or sneak in? Urusha is eager to try. She has been in this world for more than 18 hours, and she can't wait to try the so-called magician. Whatever you want to fight, you can walk in openly. Although there are very strong existences in this world, these magicians are not worth mentioning. Qin Yang said lightly, and immediately stepped up the slope. The Tasaka family's house is a large house at the end of the slope. There are iron fences outside and a garden. Qin Yang and the two walked to the iron gate. Urusha was preparing to violent gate of opening, but was stopped by Qin Yang. There is an enchantment, can't you feel it? Ah, I'm sorry, Lord Qin, I'm so excited. Urusha's eyes narrowed, and she immediately saw the scene in front of her. Above the iron gate, there is a layer of invisible enchantment covering the front yard. Although I don't quite understand their operating mechanism, it is no problem to observe it. You just invade, I'll find something. As soon as the voice fell, Qin Yang flicked his fingers, and a white light bombarded the barrier, breaking it directly. The next moment, Qin Yang's figure blurred and disappeared instantly. This Lord Qin Emperor. Urusha was stunned, but found that Qin Yang had disappeared without a trace, and immediately said helplessly, invasion. Frontal invasion. It seems to say that he is walking in. Thinking of this, Arusha thought, and condensed a robe with magic power outside her body. The robe has red clouds on a black background, a hat on its head, and strips of white cloth hanging down from the edge, which is the standard configuration of the Shao organization. Of course, Arusha didn't know Akatsuki, she just imitated Uchiha Itachi's dress. The next moment, she stepped out, released her magic power, bang. The iron gate was smashed, and she stepped into it slowly. At the same time, in midair, Qin looked down calmly. I'll meet Jin shining, lest she be too proud, let her re-understand the strength of the heroic spirit. Shaking his head, Qin didn't pay too much attention. Compared to this, he now needs mysterious power. You can only use the 12th transformation Gilgamesh if you get the mysterious power. Because Gilgamesh exists in this world, you must absorb the mysterious power once before you can use this transformation. As for why the Night King of the immortal body can use it directly, that is because Arturia and Arthur, in the final analysis, are not completely the same person. After all, a man and a woman are not exactly the same existence. At the same time, at the moment when the barrier was broken and Arusha stepped into the front yard of the mansion, when she unabashedly released her magic power. In a room of Tasaka's house, on the sofa, a man dressed in going armor and holding a wine glass suddenly raised his head. "Oh, take the initiative to call at the door, this, master, is quite confident." In front of the floor-to-ceiling windows of the room, Tokiomi Tosaka frowned. The unfamiliar aura is not in the documentation, and she's still a woman. "Tokiomi, it doesn't make any difference whether the enemy is a woman or a man. In the eyes of the king, there are only those who submit and those who resist." "Yes, venerable king of kings." Tokiomi Vivi Isho. Vivi bowed his head and expressed his respect. "He is the master, but his heroic spirit is so unruly and powerful that he has to take good care of him. The person who came has a unique breath, such an interesting magician." Before the words were finished, Gilgamesh had already turned into particles and dissipated. Seeing this, Tokiomi Tosaka raised his head. Vivi grinned. "The moment I drew this trump card, the Holy Grail War, I already won. However, it's not easy to get along with, and it's a headache." Saying that, he looked out the window and his eyes fell on Arusha. "But, why are you a little uneasy in your heart? Who is that woman?" Chapter 0733-Gilgamesh 2. Who is that woman? Tosaka Tokiomi felt a sense of unease in his heart. The Holy Grail War did not start suddenly. The process from the selection of the Master of the Holy Grail in the early stage, the granting of the command spell, and the summoning of the heroic spirit by the Master took several years. Tosaka Tokiomi had already started collecting information on other masters several years ago. In the currently known information, there is no news of Arusha who came to the door today. This is not a normal phenomenon. Tosaka Tokiomi always feels that things are a little weird. "I hope there will be no problems. No matter who it is, in front of the hero King Gilgamesh, there is no qualification to compete. The Holy Grail must belong to us." Thinking of this, Tosaka Tokiomi turned and left the room. He didn't dare to get too far from his heroic spirit. After all, the master of the other party took the initiative to show up. 9 times out of 10, the heroic spirit might also be nearby. If he were to stare at him, the situation would become bad. When Tokiomi Tosaka walked out of the room and went to meet Arusha, ripples appeared in the room, and Qin appeared directly through the void. "This guy is Rin and Sakura's father, the head of the Tosaka family." Shaking his head, he turned and walked to the bookshelf, looking for the information he needed. Boring man. So slandered, he found some magic-related books on the bookshelf and flipped through them at will. With Qin mental strength, he can parse and understand all the text in a single page in an instant. Because of this, he turned over a thick book within half a minute. Snapped. Qin closed the book, and Vivi closed his eyes, sorting out the information in the book. This book introduces the magic circuit. The so-called magic circuit is the unique simulated nerve in the magician's body. Before understanding the magic circuit, we must first understand the distinction between magic power. There are two types of magic in this world. First, the great source that fills the world, and second, the small source that is born in the living body. There is no doubt that the magician who uses day one, that is, the magician who uses the magic of the outside world, is better, and at the same level, he can easily crush the latter. A magician forms a conversion circuit in his own body, draws magic power from the outside world, and creates magic power that can be used by humans. This conversion circuit is the magic circuit. The number of magic circuits has been determined from birth, so the magician family needs to improve the bloodline from generation to generation, so that the children of future generations have bodies suitable for magic. Qin Yang thought of a description in the book, and immediately sneered, "The wisdom of mortals." Shaking his head, he suddenly stretched out his right hand, only to see dark red connections appearing on the surface of the skin MBU. The next moment, poof, a flame burst out from the palm and quickly turned into a small fireball. My illusion can easily simulate the magic circuit in the book. It's really boring. It seems that mysterious power has nothing to do with magicians. Carrot. Before Tosaka Tokiomi had left, he scanned it, but he found no mysterious power. Now that he understands the magic circuit, he has lost interest in it. Just thinking about it, the door of the room was suddenly pushed open, and a little girl walked in. The little girl was wearing double ponytails and looked cute. She seemed to be looking for her father, but she was shocked when she saw Qin Yang. Who are you? Why are you at my house? Didn't your father send you to the country? Qin Yang looked at Tosaka Rin curiously. The little girl is only 7 years old now. Immediately, he smiled and said, "Don't be afraid, I won't hurt you." He believes that he is not a good person, and there are countless blood donations stained on his hands. It can be said that there are mountains and bones piled up under his feet, but he is not so mad enough to bully the little girl. I was just a little bit puzzled. According to normal circumstances, Tosaka Rin should have been sent to the countryside for refuge by Tosaka Tokiomi. After all, Fuyuki City is going to fight the Holy Grail War, and it is very dangerous to stay here. Who are you? Probably because Qin Yang did not show malice, Tosaka Rin relaxed a little, but still stared at Qin Yang cautiously. I'm Qin. Qin Yang chuckled and said, Xiao Rin, your father is fighting a very dangerous war, aren't you afraid? Yuansaka residence, front yard. Urusha stopped, looking through the white space where the hat fell, staring at the pool in front of her. I saw golden light particles flickering, and a golden figure appeared. Lord Gilgamesh. Urusha was stunned, not knowing why Gilgamesh was here. When she was in the fairy tale world, she had already met Gilgamesh, and knew that the other party was a powerful fighter of the dream. Oh, you're a very interesting person, you actually recognize this king. Gilgamesh folded his arms across his chest, arrogantly. I think you are knowledgeable. This king allows you to kneel and pay homage, granting you the qualification to look up to this king. This is not arrogance, it is the contempt of the king. This kind of lofty attitude is not acquired, but it seems to be innate. No, you're not Lord Gilgamesh. Urusha's eyes flashed, and she immediately made a judgment. The Lord Gilgamesh I know is not so stupid. She couldn't find a word to describe it, but the two Gilgamesh gave her a completely different feeling. The hero king she knew was arrogant and had an attitude of seeing everything as nothing, but she would not easily say something to amuse herself like the one in front of her. Therefore, Urusha evaluated the other party as silly. Gilgamesh's eyes turned cold. Even after recognizing this king, he is still disrespectful to me, enough to make you die tens of millions of times. Woman, I will kill you to pieces. With a cold snort, behind Gilgamesh, golden discs appeared one after another. In the disc, golden light overflowed, and various weapons emerged from it. Swords, spears, halberds, axe and fork. All kinds of weapons came one after another. Whoosh whoosh. In an instant, this dense attack swept towards Arusha in a posture that covered the entire front yard. Are the moves the same? Arusha was very calm and analyzed the situation rationally. Why are there two Lord Gilgamesh? Is it better to summon the Night King, here to fight the enemy? Without hesitation, Arusha gave up the summoning decisively. If she had to rely on the King of Knights for any trivial matter, Emperor Qin's evaluation of her would be lowered. This was a very important matter for Arusha. Arc of Time. With a loud shout, Arusha's figure suddenly split into two, future self. In an instant, intensive attacks pierced Arusha, piercing her body, and all kinds of weapons cut through her body. Puff. Arusha vomited blood and collapsed. HMPH, a bastard who only talks big. Gilgamesh looked at him coldly. However, the next moment, the fallen Arusha suddenly disappeared, as if it dissipated into particles. And a brand new Arusha, without any trauma, was still standing there. What are you happy about? Arusha smiled tenderly. He, it's a pity to underestimate me. Chapter 0734_Time Messenger. The water drops on the cat, short-circuiting the cat, so I can only run the internet cafe to code words too bad, hollow square. What are you happy about? Arusha chuckled and looked at Gilgamesh playfully. Do you think I'm dead? It's a pity. For a moment, Gilgamesh's eyes flashed with surprise. He was sure that his attack had hit the opponent precisely, and that the opponent was indeed killed by him, but why could he be resurrected? The person he killed disappeared. Illusion. No, the eyes will be deceived, but the perception is not wrong. That woman really died once. What kind of tricks did she use? Gilgamesh's eyes were cold, and in Arusha's eyes, he saw a trick, which was an unacceptable insult to the king. Some kind of dress for a magician. Magic attire is a tool used by magicians as support when they cast magic, also known as mystic code. Magical attire has various functions and shapes, but if you want to classify it, it can be roughly divided into two systems. The first is something that supplements magic power when a magician uses magic. The second is that the dress itself has a preset effect, and that effect will be exerted when used. A substitute-type dress, or a substitute for death or she has some kind of mysterious magic. Gilgamesh guessed a lot in an instant, but none of them were very consistent with the status quo. Forget it, no matter which one, try a few times and you'll know. As soon as the voice fell, golden light shone on the top of his head, the space rippled like water waves, and weapons and sharp blades emerged from it. The next moment, these dozens of swords suddenly shot out. Is that the trick again? I won't get hit a second time. Arusha raised her head calmly, and when she reached out, the arc of time suddenly unfolded. Gods shine. In an instant, crystal balls of various colors came from the future and appeared around Arusha. Immediately afterwards, the endless crystal ball poured out like dense bullets. Whoosh whoosh. One after another purple light flew, and the weapon projected by Gilgamesh collided with it, immediately causing continuous explosions in the air. Boom. The future is flashing. It was another light drink. I saw that a tedious magic circle was suddenly depicted in the sky above Gilgamesh. Under the silver magic circle, crystal balls appeared one after another, completely blocking all Gilgamesh. Position. What is this? Gilgamesh's eyes narrowed and he looked up at the magic circle. At a glance, he was immediately shocked. The magic circle was extremely complicated, and he couldn't understand the principle. Can't you understand? You'll understand right away. Arusha Vivi, Isho, rosy lips spit out a word. Blast. Boom boom boom. Countless crystal balls swirling around Gilgamesh all hit the opponent, and after approaching, a big explosion occurred. A series of explosions shook half of Dongmu City, and a raging fire was set off in the smoke, which devoured Gilgamesh in an instant. Damn, a step too late. At this moment, Tasaka Tokiomi arrived late. His face was ugly, and he stared at Arusha. Because he deliberately covered his face, he couldn't see the specific appearance of the other party, but the huge magical aura emanating from the other party could not be faked. "Who the hell are you?" Tasaka Tokiomi's expression was solemn. Judging from the opponent's magic power, the magician's rank is probably higher than him. Generally speaking, the rank of magician is roughly divided into 7 levels, from weak to strong, divided into last son, eldest son, open position, sacrificial position, dignity position, color position, and the strongest, crown. The mysterious magician in front of him is at least a color position, or even a crown position, although this is impossible, contrary to common sense. He. Urusha couldn't help laughing. "My name is Urusha Milkovich. You should be Tasaka. That lord specially explained that he couldn't kill you. It's a pity." Urusha. Tasaka Shichin's thoughts turned sharply, and he searched his brain for the source of the name, but no matter how he looked, he couldn't find any information. He hadn't even heard of Milkovich's surname. It's impossible. No magician will appear out of nowhere. Magicians need a very heavy inheritance, and it's impossible for me not to have heard of the magician family with inheritance, the pseudonym you reported. Tasaka Shichin's eyes flickered, and he looked at Urusha carefully. "You don't have a spell in your hand, it seems that you are not the master." Incantation. Urusha picked it up, and then she stretched out her left hand and pointed the back of her hand at Tasaka. "Is that so?" Between the words, the back of the smooth hand suddenly flashed a red light, and 3 blood-red incantation marks suddenly appeared. Tasaka Shichin's expression changed. "Also, don't compare me to a magician. I'm a magician." Urusha snorted softly, and the magic power was suddenly released. The huge magic power was suffocating, and it swept away in an instant, covering the entire Yuanzaka mansion. "In your words, the magician. Arc of time, future time." Boom. The white light shone so brightly that it was difficult to open the eyes. Tasaka Shichin was shocked to find that everything around him was rapidly evolving. The speed of this evolution is difficult to keep up with the naked eye. In an instant, it is dozens or hundreds of times. The luxurious Tasaka family house seems to have experienced thousands of years of vicissitudes. When the white light fades away, the house has disappeared, and it is replaced by a barren and dead place. No grass grows, and there is a smell of decay and decay. He, after 1,000 years, this is the end of your family. Urusha couldn't help laughing, admiring Tasaka's sluggish face. Time. He murmured, "You are a time messenger. A magician. A magic user who is above all magic, uses magic, and touches the root." The power shown by Urusha is time. However, right here, chains appeared in the air, like swimming snakes, and Super Urusha slammed away. The lock of the sky. The sharp arrows approached Urusha in the blink of an eye. Suddenly attacking, "I really don't have the power of a king." Urusha jumped lightly, dodged backwards, and at the same time waved her hands, and let out a cold air. Shape of ice, shield. In an instant, a giant ice shield suddenly rose up, protecting the chain of the sky from the outside. At the same time, Tasaka Shichin suddenly said, "Wait, Gilgamesh, she is a magician, a time messenger, don't do it." Chapter 0735 _ The Road to the Root. The difference between magic and magic is the difference between skill and law. Techniques are just trails, laws are the foundation of laws. The magic mastered by magicians now was magic a long time ago, but the magic has degenerated and gradually evolved into a skill that many people can use. As far as Tasaka Tokiomi knew, there were only 5 kinds of magic in the world. The first method, unknown. One of the oldest magics, nothing else is known. The second method is parallel world interference. A magic that can observe countless parallel worlds that exist, and can freely travel in and out of the world. The user is an extremely powerful being. The third method is the materialization of the soul. Literally, this magic is the foundation of the Holy Grail War, and all heroic spirits are inseparable from this magic. The fourth method, unknown. Like the first method, it is an unknown power, but it does exist and the user is unknown. The fifth method, magic green. What it was, Tosaka Tokiomi also didn't know. Despite all the unknowns, Tosaka Tokiomi knew very well that being able to master magic meant that he had come into contact with the root cause, that he was in existence at the top level of the world, and could not be defeated by ordinary means. In addition to the 5 major magics, the so-called sixth law does not have a complete definition, because there are only 5 laws in the world at present, and the new sixth law can be called the sixth law before it becomes a law. Law. Urusha's time shook Tosaka Tokiomi's heart. Not sure what kind of law it is, but that's definitely the realm of law. Wait, Gilgamesh, this woman is a magician, a time bringer. Everything was just a moment, and after sorting out the thoughts in his mind, Tosaka Tokiomi immediately stopped Gilgamesh. However, his words obviously cannot affect Gilgamesh. Bastard, a mere ant lying on the ground, showing its fangs to the king, I will tear your head, smash your heart, and break your fangs, so that you can no longer look up at the king's face. Probably provoked, Gilgamesh seemed extremely angry at Urusha. The chains of the sky bombarded the ice shield, and at the same time that they were blocked, there were several chains protruding from the void. Boom! The ice shield shattered, and the chain punched through Urusha's heart. However, before Gilgamesh was happy, Urusha, who was killed again, disappeared once again. And Urusha appeared again intact. This is it again. Gilgamesh's anger became more and more obvious between his brows. The General Tokiomi Tosaka was shocked. This is time. If I guessed correctly, the one who was killed just now was you outside of time. Hearing this, Urusha raised her eyebrows and said in a playful tone, as expected of a senior magician, the head of the Tosaka family. That's right, this move is called future self. In this future, there are countless me, I just let the future me die for me. Quote. After a pause, he looked at Gilgamesh again, I'm sorry, you can't kill me. After the magic power reached the pseudo-abyss, Urusha's arc of time also reached the level of mystery. However, having said that, but this kind of move consumes a lot of money, and Urusha can't do it indefinitely. At most 10 times, she will be unsustainable. Moreover, there is no invincible power in the world, even if it can interfere with the future self. If it faces existences like Aizen and Emperor Qin, it is meaningless. Of course, facing the heroic spirit Gilgamesh, there is nothing to be afraid of. You bug. Gilgamesh's handsome face showed murderous intent. At this time, Tokiomi Tosaka said first. Wait, Urusha, what is your purpose here? How could the Holy Grail choose you to be the master? They are all magicians, and they are still participating in the Holy Grail war. Who knows, I'm just following that lord. Now, that lord should be over. Urusha murmured softly. Hearing this, Tosaka Tokiomi's complexion changed drastically. That adult. A magician, the messenger of time, actually called others adults. Oops. Tosaka Tokiomi's heart jumped suddenly, and suddenly turned around. Rin. The Tosaka family house has been turned into ruins and has disappeared from the ground. It was not destroyed by power, but turned into powder after a long millennium. At this moment, in the location of the original family house, in an illusory space, Chinyang stretched out his hand and pressed it on Tosaka Rin's head, while a mysterious force swept and scanned. Huan, is there any result? No, no mysterious power has been discovered. It's really a headache. What is the mysterious power of this world? What is the specific form of expression? Chinyang reluctantly said. Magicians have no mysterious power. Gems containing magic power, no mysterious power, nor are the heroic spirits themselves, nor are the treasures of heroic spirits, so what is it? Mysterious power, in the world of pirates, is expressed in the form of devil fruit, etc., in the world of death, in the form of virtual, Zanpakudo, etc., in the fairy tale, it is magic. But in the heroic spirit world, it is a mystery. If it is the origin of the world, it should be relatively simple. I think so too. Qin said. The foundation of this world is the root. The origin of the world is called the root, which is the cause of everything. I still know that. Roots, this is the most crucial thing. The magician's lifelong pursuit is to reach the root, or to use the power of the root. The 5 magics are also the things that evolved from the root. The magician is the existence that has contacted the root. The root is derived from the whole world, and the world is derived from 2 major consciousnesses. One of them is the natural consciousness, Gia. When Qin first arrived, it was Gia's consciousness that was rejecting him, and he was eventually repulsed by him. The second is the group consciousness, 4.5 Alaya, a famous hero in human history who became a heroic spirit after his death as a good thing done by Alaya. These 2 are more troublesome things, and Qin has no interest in interacting with them, or any intersection with them for the time being. Let's speculate. The mysterious power is an evolutionary product of the origin of the world, whether it is devil fruit, magic, or Zanpakuto. In this way, the God of this world must be a mysterious power. Qin thought calmly. However, in this era, where can I go to slaughter the gods? There is no God, and there are other things, such as fantasy, Jean said rigidly. I know, Holy Grail. Qin shook his head, smiled and said, in the end, I still have to grab a Holy Grail to play. Then grab it. Anyway, the heroic spirit war will end soon. Chapter 0736-Sad Gilgamesh. The Holy Grail war will not last long. If you want to get the Holy Grail, you just need to wait quietly for the 7 masters to kill each other. This does not require Qin to do anything. In order to realize their own wishes, both the master and the servant will try their best to kill their opponents. Huh. Suddenly, Rin Tasaka, who was in front of Qin, murmured from his nose, and then slowly opened his eyes. Where is it? A subspace. Qin answered calmly. Tasaka Rin's consciousness gradually became clearer, and he suddenly recalled the previous scene. She entered her father's study and saw a person she had never seen before, flipping through the books in front of the bookshelf. Then, a white light shone outside the window, and the whole world was filled with white light. At the same time, the man in front of him put a hand on her forehead, and then it was like this. Are you a magician? Tasaka Rin's eyes widened. No, I obviously can't feel any magic circuit, and 09 doesn't have the breath of magic. Qin lightly smiled and touched the little loli's head. That's because the gap between us is too big. Let me give you an example. Can you stand on the earth and see the people on the moon? There is no one on the moon. Tasaka Rin said seriously. No. Who are you? Why did you come to my house? My name is Qin. I came here just to find something, but unfortunately, I didn't find it. Qin shook his head. Also, if you've seen something like me, please keep it a secret. Yuansaka Rin looked up at Qin, probably because Qin Yang's sales were better, and she didn't look like a bad person. Her hostility faded a little. As a reward for keeping a secret, I'll give you something. Qin stretched out 2 fingers and touched Tasaka Rin's eyebrows, and suddenly, a phantom power merged into the other's body. What is this? What did you do? Tasaka Rin said nervously. She felt something in her body, closed her eyes to feel it, and could perceive a trace of white power circulating in her body. This power is extremely mysterious, far beyond everything she knows. Tasaka Rin was surprised. Who is this uncle in front of him? If Qin knew what she was thinking, he would definitely be laughed at. How could he be considered an uncle? You will naturally know later that it is more important than the Holy Grail to you magicians. Qin, Vivi Isho, turned and left. Remember to keep a secret. Once you speak out, that power will punish you. Goodbye, Rin. One step out, Qin disappeared. The subspace remained the same. Rin shouted, and her voice echoed in the empty space. Hey, let me out. Farsaka residence. What did you do to Rin? Tasaka Tokiomi's face was ashen as he stared at Arusha. Adult, mentioned by the other party just now, he immediately realized that the other party had a companion, or that, adult, was the heroic spirit of the other party. And now, the entire Tasaka mansion has disappeared, but Rin has not appeared. Rin. Urusha thought, the name of the woman, is this person's wife? Or a daughter, a relative? Just thinking about it, a voice came from the void. The voice is indistinguishable from male and female, like the sound of nature. Go away, Urusha, you have gone too far, restore the house. Chinyang could cover up his voice. Others may not know, but Urusha reacted at once, yes. At this moment, Gilgamesh's eyes were cold, hitting his head and showing his tail. Where is the rat? Chinyang ignored it. It was Urutiya who couldn't help Isho, and said, Gilgamesh, you can't do anything to me, do you still want to talk to this lord? However, this time, it's just to say hello. Speaking of this, she raised her right arm, and suddenly, a silver magic circle appeared above her head. Arc of time, everything backtracks. Ka ka ka. I saw that on the ground, a luxurious bungalow was rapidly recovering. How to disappear before, how to recover now. Back in time. Tasaka Tokiomi's face was full of shock. This man has the magic of time, he can push the object's time into the future, and he can also move the object back into the past, and it spans thousands of years. Blink for 1,000 years. The Tasaka residence reappeared in front of everyone. No, not only that, she can even make her future self manifest in this era, if this trick can be used on others. Tasaka Tokiomi shuddered. If he could even do such a thing, the time messenger in front of him would be a monster beyond common sense. Then my mission is done, goodbye. With a string of charming laughter, Urusha quickly withdrew. Want to run? When will this king allow you to leave? Gilgamesh was completely furious, and he couldn't hold back his killing intent over and over again. I saw his right hand holding a void, and a strange long sword appeared. That is the sword that cuts the world, the sword of deviation Ea. Chinyang, who was hiding in the illusion, Vivi frowned, and immediately snorted and flicked his fingers. Whoosh! A white light fell from the sky, and instantly penetrated Gilgamesh's armor and broke his chest. Puff! Huh! Gilgamesh's expression changed, and there was an unbelievable meaning in his eyes. He bowed his head in awe, but did not see the existence of the wound, but the strength of his body was rapidly draining. Who the hell are you? Ignorance and fearlessness. Chinyang was too lazy to pay attention to him and left with Urusha. From beginning to end, he never showed up. Of course, it wasn't because he was pretending to be arrogant, but mainly because he didn't want to elicit Gia. The planet's will had nothing to do with him, and Chinyang couldn't do anything to the other party for the time being, unless he smashed the planet. Damn! Gilgamesh gritted his teeth and looked up at the sky, but he couldn't find any trace of the person who shot. What a shame. Don't be impulsive. Tasaka Tokiomi said solemnly. Gilgamesh, I order you with a curse, calm down. You bastard. How dare you order me, who is the king? Despite this, the power of the incantation was still like a basin of cold water pouring over Gilgamesh's head. This Holy Grail war is very bad, very bad. Tosaka Tokiomi clenched his fists and felt a great pressure. A black limousine drove out of the residential area. In the car, Urusha couldn't help but ask, Lord Chin Emperor, who is that Gilgamesh? What does it have to do with our fantastic king of heroes? After a pause, he added, although the nature of strength and appearance are exactly the same, they are not as strong as Lord Hero King. You are wrong. Chinyang shook his head, he just didn't take it seriously. He was provoked just now and finally took out the Deviant's sword. If I didn't do it, you would be dead. The deviating sword can cut the world apart with one sword. If he really wants to fight it out, Urusha will definitely not be able to escape, and neither will his future self. Hearing this, Urusha turned her eyes and said with a smile, Lord Chin Emperor is worried about me, I am so happy. Drive your car well. Qinyang rolled his eyes and pondered in his heart. Calculate the time, Duma Wong, it's almost time to open that box. Chapter 0737_Faraway Ideal. Who the hell is that person? Fuyuki City, in the suburbs, in a large house, this is the residence of the Einsborn family. Arturia looked at the box on the table and muttered in a low voice. Irisville, you get out of here first, I'm going to open it. Hearing this, the silver-haired woman said worriedly, Saber, that man's origin is unknown and his purpose is unknown. If he opens it rashly, it may be dangerous. What if there is a bomb inside? The courier guy came and went mysteriously. Although he looked like an ordinary person, he was just in case. You know, now that the Holy Grail War has begun, it is very likely that it is the plan of another master. Don't worry, even if it's a contact bomb, I can protect myself the moment it opens. Arturia Vivi shook her head, and when she thought about it, she suddenly released her magic power, and the black suit on her body was transformed into armor. This is the armor of condensed magic. And, I can feel that the things in the box are calling me. Hearing this, Irisville opened her mouth and had to agree. I see, if something happens, you must call me, and I will treat you as soon as possible. Saying that, she hesitated a little, but chose to leave the room. Soon, Arturia was left alone in the room. Taking a deep breath, Arturia put her hand on the box, although with current technology, even if she didn't open it, she could barely know what was inside. However, this box is very strange, and no force can penetrate it. Just let me see what you are and why you are so familiar. Arturia put her hand on the bayonet of the box and wanted to open it, but in the next instant, the box suddenly turned into black smoke. Puff! The body of the box suddenly dissipated from solid to gas, and thick black smoke rolled away and gradually rose. The objects in the box were gradually exposed to Arturia. Huh! Arturia was stunned, looking at the contents of the box in surprise. It was the scabbard, the exterior was going color, the metal was inlaid with striking blue enamel as decoration, and in the center was the long-lost goblin text. Avalon. Arturia looked out of her mind and reached out to stroke the scabbard. It turned out to be this. No wonder it's so familiar, but why is the courier brother? She thought of Qinyang again, but she had clearly seen him once. Why was she unable to recall the person's appearance when she went to recall it? The man returned the scabbard to her, and why? Oh. If it was ordered by another master, why would she give her the scabbard? What is the purpose of that person? I is less than or equal to underscore. Arturia was confused and didn't know what to think. Why? At this moment, the black smoke from the box lingered in the air, gradually turned into a black shadow. The shadow is incorporeal, but there is a voice. What is the king? Huh. Arturia was taken aback and looked at the black smoke in surprise. What are you? What is a king? Arturia, as the king of ancient Britain, can you answer this question? After a moment of silence, Arturia said firmly, deliver justice in disasters, stand up as a king, take the sword to destroy the enemies of the kingdom, and protect the subjects under her command. The horizon is too small. Shadow commented, it's just a little king. What did you say? Arturia raised an eyebrow. I'm not denying your kingship. Little girl, I'm just evaluating your qualifications as a king. A low laugh came from the shadow. Every king has his own path, but whether it is a tyrant, a benevolent king, or a foolish person, vision determines the qualifications of a person's king. The king of a country is the king of 10,000 people. A leader of 1,000 people, a guide who does not see through the future, is not a qualified king. Quote. What do you mean? The meaning is very simple. The evaluation of whether a king is qualified and excellent depends on whether he or she can see the future, not the present, not the past. When you can understand this, you will not be stuck on, why do I the country that was founded will perish, and, I want to change history with the Holy Grail. Black Shadow was merciless, and his words were rather harsh. Arturia really frowned, but for a while, she couldn't refute. the other party could see through her mind. Sombra continued, Avalon, this scabbard named, Distant Ideal Land, is given to you. When you don't need it, remember to give it back to us. The remote Ideal Land is the place where the legend of King Arthur rests, and the scabbard named after the fairy town. After the death of King Arthur, I dreamed of an unreachable ideal land. Of course, this thing is a treasure. The main function is to automatically heal the holder, and the consumption is very small, almost imperceptible. In addition to this, the true power of this scabbard is to achieve absolute defense in the magical realm. After unfolding the true form, the user is in the fairyland, immune to all interference, whether it is physical interference, parallel world interference, or even the 5 major magics. It is difficult to touch. Of course Qin wouldn't give Arturia to such a powerful thing for free, even if he liked this little girl. The reason why Arthur's scabbard was handed over to Arturia was only for one purpose. That's 6-star. Thinking back carefully about how Aizen broke through to the 6-star level, it's easy to realize that this scabbard, or rather, the Two's, Sword of Oath of Victory, is crucial. Therefore, Qin gave the scabbard to Arturia and left a little bit of hands and feet. At this time, Arturia spoke, but became more and more puzzled. Who are you? He. The shadow laughed lightly, and from the black air, he stretched out a dark hand, as if to touch Arturia. King Duma, you will understand later. When you are confused, desperate, and don't know what to do, remember to call us. The sound gradually faded, and the black smoke completely disappeared. In the house, Arturia was alone. On the table, the scabbard of the Sword of Victory was lying quietly there. Who is it? Arturia remained silent, reaching out to stroke the scabbard. The next moment, the scabbard turned into a stream of light and merged into her body. She herself did not know that it was not her scabbard, although it was exactly the same, it was not hers. The moment the scabbard melted into her body, a kind of oath, left in the scabbard was established. At the same time, Qin opened his eyes and couldn't help shaking his head. The naive little girl, I don't know if she was sold. I don't have any intention of cheating, otherwise I would have died a few times. The driver's seat, Urusha said with a smile, Lord Qin Emperor, what do I need to do next? Next wait for the evening, the good show will start soon. Chapter 0738-2 Kings of Knights 1. Farsaka Residence. The mansion that was once destroyed is now restored to its original state. Tasaka Rin was also released from the other dimension and returned to the study. When Tasaka Tokiomi found his daughter, he could not help but breathe a sigh of relief in his heart. After some inquiries, he didn't get any information. He could see what his daughter was hiding, but it didn't matter, it was fine. Rin, Fuyuki City will be more and more dangerous. I will arrange as soon as possible to send you to the countryside. After sending Rin Tasaka away, Tokiomi Tosaka carefully searched for everything in the study, and after a while, he sat down. The bookshelf has been turned over. When the woman attacked directly, an accomplice sneaked in. Voice was low, Gilgamesh, what do you think? HMPH, Tokiomi, there are only 3 incantations, and you've already used it on me once, so do it. Gilgamesh snorted from the void. Obviously, he was very dissatisfied with Tasaka Tokiomi's previous blocking. In this regard, Tokiomi Tosaka smiled bitterly in his heart, and he didn't want to do this either, but that servant, who did not show up was too terrifying to fight to the death. From his point of view, Urusha is the master, and that guy who never showed up is most likely a 747 servant. Are you here looking for something? I don't know. I have something here that can arouse their coveting. Shaking his head, Tokiomi Tasaka immediately made a decision. No matter what, this time the Holy Grail War, that time messenger is the biggest enemy. We must contact Kotomine and let someone monitor it. Fuyuki City, Shindu, on the hillside in the southeast, there is a church. The church belongs to the church. Here, I have to mention the main forces of the heroic spirit world. On the magician's side, it is mainly the Magic Association. Under the association, there are three major institutions. Clock Tower, located in London, England, inside the British Museum. Generally speaking, the Clock Tower will be regarded as the headquarters of the Magic Society. Atlas College, located in the Atlas Mountains of Egypt, alias, the Crypt of Giants, compared with other departments, is an institution that thoroughly implements mysticism, mainly focusing on alchemy, and is a gathering of a large number of alchemists' organization. The last one is the Wandering Sea, which is a huge mountain range wandering in the North Atlantic itself, also known as the Moving Coffin. This institution is devoted to the research of human transformation and the magic of the gods, while the relationship between the Clock Tower is bad. The overall scale of the three major organizations is quite similar, and they jointly operate the Magic Association. Of course, this is just talk. In fact, up to now, the three major organizations are each playing their own way, and they do not have much contact with each other. Although it is not hostile, but not friendly either. In addition to these three institutions, Japan, China, the Middle East and other places have organizations that manage mysterious organizations, but because of different ideas, there is no intention to communicate openly. The above is only for magicians. In this world, there is still a church, which is called the Church. There had been unhappiness in the past between the Church of the Holy Church and the Magic Association, but it is currently in a state of truce. And in the Holy Grail War, the people of the Church of the Holy Grail are responsible for supervision. Supervisor, sent by the Church, is called Kodomine Rise. He has a son, Kodomine Kire, who is one of the 7 masters chosen by the Holy Grail. Right now, in the church. Kodomine Risheng said with a serious face, "Kire, there is news from Tomisaka Tokiomi that a magician has appeared in the Holy Grail War. Where is the master?" Kodomine Kire looked surprised, but his expression was like a poker. It turned out to be a magician. A name I've never heard before. Urusha, magic is time. A spell is engraved on the back of her left hand, and her servant has not yet been found. But the guy who is suspected to be a servant, shot once and defeated with one blow Gilgamesh. Hearing this, Kodomine Kire was speechless. Who is Gilgamesh? It is the king of heroes. In the field of servants, the existence at the top can be defeated by one blow. If it can be described in terms of card stars, Gilgamesh is 5 stars, and it's full. Need me to spy on her? That's what it means. However, unlike monitoring other masters, try to be careful. Kodomine Risheng frowned. I'm going to ask the church. The existence of a magician does not conform to common sense. What is a magician? The strongest crown among magicians is not the opponent of magicians. I see, I'll pay attention. Kodomine Kire nodded, and did not show panic. He was like a machine and seemed extremely calm. And as he nodded, behind him, a servant gathered in the darkness. He was completely dark, wearing a black cloak, and his face was a mask of bone. Go and search, don't get too close. Yes, master. As soon as the voice fell, the black servant disappeared like smoke. Time is late. In a high-end hotel in Shindu, Chinyang and Urusha are having dinner. The two were sitting on the top floor by the window. Despite this, Urusha felt a peeping breath coming from the window. Lord Qin Emperor, do you want to get rid of him? No. Chinyang said calmly. He can't see me. Oh, how annoying it is to disturb other people's dinner. Urusha muttered, but Chinyang didn't pay attention to what she said. Black servant, hiding in the dark, he hid on the roof of another building hundreds of meters away. Feel the sight, he murmured in surprise. Impossible, it's a few hundred meters away from here. He put down the binoculars, hesitating to change the place. However, after thinking for a moment, he did not choose to leave. Only one woman, that's the sorcerer, in her early 20s. Where is her servant? The black servant was a little uneasy. However, the unease did not last long. Looking in another direction from the top of the building, you can see that in the direction of the pier, there is a blonde girl chasing a person. That's Saber and Lancer. The black servant was an assassin, hiding in the darkness, and suddenly discovered the aura of the two servants. It started. In the hotel, Qin Yang held a goblet and chuckled. It really is these two people. The Holy Grail War, the first battle in the true sense, will break out immediately. Urusha, you go to add fire. Should I go? Urusha blinked, or let the King of Knights? Of course Arthur went. Qin Yang couldn't help laughing and said, 2 kings of knights, 1 male and 1 female, then, who is the real one? All those who observe secretly will be shocked. Yes. Chapter 0739-2 Kings of Knights 2. 2. It is strongly recommended that the big brothers who have not seen it go to the cinema to see it. Fuyuki City, Pier. Under the streetlight, Artoriya stopped. I saw a man walking out ahead. The man was holding 2 guns, one long and one short. Good job. Today, I wandered around the city all day, wantonly exuding my breath, and as a result, everyone was like a tortoise, and only you were the warrior who responded to me. The man is handsome and has a beauty mole on the corner of his right eye. When I close my eyes, I can feel the clear fighting spirit radiating from your body. Is it a swordsman? Exactly. Arturia faced her opponent directly. Her momentum was not weak at all. Holding 2 spears, you are a spearman. As you can see. Man, Vivi Isho, put on a fighting stance. It's a pity that I can't name you, but since it's Saber, I hope it will be a guy with a backbone. Oh, are you looking forward to an upright duel? Exactly what I want. As soon as the voice fell, the 2 moved in unison. Arturia radiated magic power all over her body, her suit turned into armor, and a long sword appeared in her hand. No, a sword that cannot be seen by the naked eye, but it does exist. The magic power of the wind that wraps around the blade distorts the light, making it seem invisible. The man stabbed with a gun, tentatively attacked, and said to himself, the weapon is deliberately hidden, it seems to be a quite famous noble phantasm, interesting. Boom. The gun and the sword collided, and a muffled sound suddenly erupted. The moment a shot was fired, the other short gun held in the man's left hand immediately swept away. Seeing this, Arturia moved swiftly, and immediately turned to the side, avoiding the sweep of the short spear, and at the same time struck back with a sword, cutting it in the middle. It's really not bad. When you come as a heroic spirit, most of the abilities you get are, right. The man's eyes flashed, not retreating but advancing. The 2 attacked each other tentatively, but they fought back and forth. However, at the same time, in several directions, there are multiple people watching everything from a distance. Outside the pier, on the bridge across the river, Weber and Alexander the Great were sitting upright. At the corner of the dock, above the container, a man and a woman were driving sniper rifles, watching the battle break out. At the top of the gantry crane on the dock, a black figure, like Fukuro, hangs upside down, staring at everything. A few hundred meters away, on the top floor of a hotel. Qin Yang stood in front of the window, watching from a distance. Do it. Understood. Urusha chuckled, and immediately closed her eyes, exploring eyes. As soon as the voice fell, I saw a huge eye suddenly appear in the sky above the pier, under the shining starlight. What? The 2 people in the battle stopped together. Spearman even raised his head and looked in surprise. What kind of magic is this? Arturia also frowned slightly. He came to investigate the situation in a grand manner. Who? He. There was laughter from the huge sky eye. Don't hide. 380 meters to the north, the cavalry rider and his master. 120 meters to the west, the assassin, and the archer flying in the sky. Gilgamer what? The sound was accurately transmitted to the ears of all parties, and suddenly the hidden heart froze. The top of the bridge across the river, Iskander laughed proudly. Hey, kid, this Holy Grail War is really interesting. Do you recognize that magic? No, I don't know. Weber said in shock. What a huge amount of magic. Is it a magician of the color level? The color position is already at the top level of magician ding. As for the crown position, he still does not know who is the champion. It's really useless. Are you also my master like this? Iskander was quite speechless, and immediately took out the blade from his waist and waved it forward. Immediately, lightning flashed, and a chariot immediately manifested. Shinwei wheels. Iskander grabbed Web and jumped into the chariot. Come on, let's meet this interesting man for a while. Boom. The chariot let out a thunderous roar and flew away. At the same time, a voice came from the eye of the day. Are all the heroic spirits participating in this Holy Grail war timid as a mouse? It's really boring. Arthur, let's end this boring war. Arthur. The spearman looked slightly startled. The next moment, a golden light struck from behind him like a sledgehammer. Before the sword chi arrived, the spear soldier felt like a light on his back. He didn't have time to think, turned around and crossed his guns in an attempt to block the next blow. However, this sword was so imposing, it came from a great distance and hit his noble phantasm all at once, giving him no time to react at all. Boom! The spearman was hit by a single blow, flew past Artoria, and flew several dozen meters straight, knocking over a container on the ground. Since ancient times, the spearmen are lucky. It's so pitiful. I was hitting Saber, but you bumped into it yourself. A mocking voice sounded, and in the darkness ahead, a figure stepped forward, accompanied by the light sound of armor. The man gradually walked under the light of the street lamp, fully exposing himself. You. Arturia's eyes widened, full of inconceivable expressions. To be precise, what she was looking at was not Arthur, but the sword in Arthur's hand. Yo, let's meet for the first time, King of Knights Artoria. Who are you? Why are you holding that sword? Arturia suspects that she is dazzled. If the sword held by the other party is real, what is this one in her hand? Don't be surprised, everything you see is real. In the legend of the King of Knights, everyone thinks that the king is a man, but it is unbelievable that he is a woman. Arthur Vivi Isho, pointing at Saber, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Arthur Pandoragon, King of Ancient Britain, King of Knights. Hearing this, Artoria's delicate body was shocked, and for a while, she was speechless. Meanwhile, to the southwest, above the container, a man and a woman with sniper rifles put down their weapons. What's the matter? The man looked puzzled. Two kings Arthur. Kuritsugu. The woman shook her head. The situation is not right, it's better to withdraw here first. No, just wait. Emiya Kuritsugu's heart sank. He was very aware of Artoria's identity, because the other party was a servant he summoned, and when he learned that the Night King was a woman, he was very surprised. But the surprise at that time was far less than that at the moment. Two kings of knights. True or false? Or, both are true. And above the sky, above a flying boat, Gilgamesh also showed a hint of confusion, but it immediately turned into interest. Interesting, two kings of knights. Did they split when they came? Or two people originally? Chapter 0740-Swordsman, Kendo. Split. The gantry crane on the dock, the dark servant hanging upside down like Fukuro, watched the two Night Kings from a distance. It's not like a split. Could it be that two people summoned the King of Knights at the same time, and they were one man and one woman? As an assassin, he is extremely sensitive to breath, and in his eyes, whether it is Arthur or Arturia, the soul breath exuding is the same. In this way, it is certain that these two are heroic spirits. Just as I was thinking, another accident happened over there. You bastard, suddenly attacked. The spearman walked out of the rubble of the container, dodged, and swept away quickly. After approaching Arthur, he shot out without hesitation. The demon-breaking red rose. This dark red gun, the moment it was stabbed, the charm wrapped around the gun body disappeared at once, revealing the dark red gun body. So impulsive, like you, on the battlefield, is the easiest to die. Arthur Isho, stepping back with his right foot, jerked sideways just as the spear was about to stab him. I saw a shot through, almost sticking to Arthur's armor. It seems that the reaction distance can be reserved. While avoiding a blow, Arthur's left hand suddenly transformed into a sword. What? The spearman man's expression changed slightly. Two noble phantasms. It's not a noble phantasm. Arthur laughed lowly, and the Zanpakuto in his left hand attacked violently. Boom. At a time of crisis, the gunman man blocked another long gun in front of him. After a dull sound, he immediately felt an incomparably heavy slash, and in an instant, his feet lifted off the ground and flew upside down. Well, the level of the 3-star heroic spirit, all abilities are generally B, but the speed is enough to A, and everything else is so-so. Arthur commented calmly. In his opinion, Arturia, Iskander, and Gilgamesh are all 5-star heroic spirits, and the rest are not worth mentioning. Of course, he himself is a 5-star. Just as he was talking, above the sky, a chariot attacked. It was you who attacked me yesterday. Above the chariot, Iskander shouted loudly. Boom. The chariot fell, and the two flying hoof thunderbolts that were pulling the chariot roared at Arthur. Wherever the chariot passed, lightning flashed, and it seemed to be very powerful. 1. Arthur glanced at each other calmly. The next moment, a flying boat flew across the sky, and Gilgamesh jumped down and landed on the street lamp. 2. King Arthur's, funny. You seem stronger than that little girl W. 7 is less than or equal to 2. Arthur Vivi Isho said, thank you for the compliment. The crowd is almost complete, then Benkai 12 Knights of the Round Table. Boom. The spiritual pressure rose into the sky, and under the night sky of Fuyuki City, a sturdy spiritual pressure master shot straight into the sky. The Zanpakuto held in Arthur's left hand underwent 2 stages of liberation, and immediately formed a golden space that sealed everyone inside. This is. Arturia looked around in amazement. Around the golden space, stood 12 knights in armor. Knights of the Round Table. She widened her eyes and was a little shaken. Can't you understand? Arthur Haha Isho said, you who were betrayed by everyone in the end can't understand my ability. Don't be discouraged, as a woman, you are already very good. Of course, it's just cheating. The power of Zanpakuto comes from the world of death, and it has basically nothing to do with the legend of King Arthur in the world of heroes. Saying so, Arthur walked towards Arturia. I'm angry when I see you. Anything that changes history and saves ancient Britain is a boring thing. Let me wake you up. He walked step by step, imposingly. HMPH, ignore me. Too arrogant, King of Knights. Iskander was very dissatisfied, and with a flick of the reins in his hand, the chariot started and ran towards Arthur. The 2 flying hoof thunder cows, carrying the power of thunder and lightning, suddenly raised their hooves and stomped towards Arthur. Arthur still ignored this and walked straight to Arturia. Seeing that he was about to be trampled and seriously injured, suddenly 2 figures flashed past, and they all blocked under the hooves of the bull. Boom. The earth shook, and Lei Niu's hooves failed to break through the 2's interception. You play with him, Lancelot. As soon as the voice fell, there were 6 knights of the Round Table surrounding Iskander. What are you doing? Do you want to fight more and less? Ha ha ha, the legendary knights of the Round Table really makes me happy. The emperor laughed wildly, not at all angry. At the same time, the same 6 knights of the Round Table trapped Gilgamesh in the center. In case you don't understand, let me tell you, my weapon is called Zanpakuto. One of Benkai's abilities is to form a space of knights of the Round Table. Unless all knights are defeated, this space will never be broken. It's definitely an exaggeration, and ordinary power cannot be broken. Gilgamesh's stray sword might be able to break, but under that, ordinary noble phantasms are useless at all. Draw my sword to this king, mere bastard, kneel now, I can still forgive you. Gilgamesh looked at the 6 knights with disdain. Not to mention the 2 of them, Arthur didn't stop until he walked in front of Arturia. I won't bully you. I won't use the Zanpakuto. Let me see, how is your swordsmanship? Hearing this, Arturia took a deep breath and said, I don't know why you exist, but I also want to see how powerful another male King Arthur is. The souls of the two people are the same. When they stand in front of each other, they don't need any evidence at all. They can understand each other that the other party is real. Altalia, a 5-star heroic spirit, although both are 5 stars, there is a huge gap in strength. Arthur flicked his left hand and inserted the Zanpakuto on the ground. The next moment, he took a step forward, and the 10 oath in his hand was victorious, and stabbed out with a sword. Whoosh! The golden light flashed, and the sword came out like a dragon. Saber and swordsman, when the opponent shot, Arturia felt a heavy force. Immediately, she retreated, raised her sword at the same time, and blocked a blow from the side. However, this blow wrapped around a sword energy, and at the moment of contact, it suddenly erupted. Only 5.3 saw the golden light fly by, and with one sword, half of the pier was split open. Boom boom boom. The slash spread hundreds of meters, and everything was cut and pierced wherever it passed. What? Arturia was startled, her face stunned. What power is this? I clearly feel the fluctuation of magic power, so is this move just driven by brute force? Don't be in a daze, you want to die. Arthur snorted softly, kicked Arturia in the chest, and kicked her away. You were puzzled just now. Why didn't you release the noble phantasm, but the power of a single blow is so terrifying. This is called sword chi. It is the combination of a swordsman's spirit and spirit, not pure brute force. Having said this, he paused for a while before saying, a master of swordsmanship, even if he holds grass and trees in his hand, his sword can shine for thousands of miles. Arturia, you really are not suitable for the rank of swordsman.